to be accessible to them. We can't wrap them up in cotton wool, and you can never guarantee someone's safety 100% of the time. But what do you think can be done to keep them safe? Because if we can't, even fewer people will feel free to put themselves forward for elected office. We have Cross Question at 8, and after 9, we'll be talking to Sonny Green, the Southend poet.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock, counter-terrorism police say Anne Widdecombe was killed in a targeted attack. The former Conservative MP, who more recently joined Reform UK, was found dead at her home in Devon on Thursday. A 28-year-old man's in custody on suspicion of murder and terror charges and could be held for up to 7 more days. LBC's Joseph Draper told Andrew Marr, "We were originally told there was no evidence the attack was politically motivated, but that changed at the weekend."
We heard from counter-terror police who said they were now leading this investigation because of new information that had come to light. He had also been rearrested on suspicion of a terror charge as well. And today, as you say, at New Scotland Yard, we had this pretty significant update, I think, from the counter-terror police saying that it was clear this was a targeted attack against Anne Widdecombe.
Donald Trump has scrapped plans to charge a 20% toll on shipping for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. The US president says it will be replaced by trade and investment deals with Gulf states. MPs will back the Hillsborough law later, which will make it a legal requirement for public officials to tell the truth in investigations. It's finally been agreed how best to include security services like MI5 without putting national security at risk. Bishop James Jones, a former advisor to the then Home Secretary Theresa May on Hillsborough, told Tonight with Andrew Marr that this is about more than just honouring the 97 who died in the stadium disaster.
Today, really, is basically a triumph of ordinary people who still believe in telling the truth, who still believe in people being accountable for their actions and believe in justice.
The government's going to give us advice on what we can do to prepare for emergencies like cyber attacks and extreme weather. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, has announced a national resilience campaign. He's given Andrew Marr on LBC more details.
It's kind of the sensible things that many of us do, although I confess when I looked at the information, I realised that I am probably not as prepared as I should be for whether it's a kind of break in the water infrastructure or a loss of power to your home or extreme weather that results in disruption to supply of food or energy. It's the type of thing where you just need to be prepared for a number of hours or days should there be disruption to normal service to your home.
The COVID inquiries found almost 10 of the £15 billion the government spent on PPE during the pandemic was wasted. It concluded failures and systemic flaws left frontline workers without adequate protection. Fraser Knight has more details for LBC.
There's also heavy criticism in this report of what was known as the VIP lane inside government for some of the offers of help that were being sent directly to ministers. Baroness Hallett says that should never have been set up. It meant that some people were treated more favourably than others.
The inquiry found no evidence of cronyism or corruption. A homeowner arrested for murder after shooting an intruder dead in Derbyshire will face no further action. Prosecutors say the householder, a man in his 50s, used a legally held gun when confronted by burglars in Whaley Bridge. 3 men face burglary charges. British teens who've taken part in a trial of social media restrictions say their sleep, focus and well-being improved. A complete ban brought the biggest gains in concentration but caused the most social disruption. An overnight curfew proved easiest to enforce. In the city, we've got the latest news on the dollar and the pound, which we'll bring you in an hour. But now a look at the LBC weather. Low cloud could spread inland from North Sea coast tonight, otherwise dry and clear. It's going to be warm in the south, but a low of 10 degrees in Scotland. Cloud in the east will lift tomorrow morning, otherwise mainly fine, dry and sunny. And there could be some thunder in the southwest, a high of 31 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Tim Humphrey.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. It's 7:04. Welcome to the programme. I'm Iain Dale. I want to talk about MPs' safety today, not just in the light of what happened to Anne Widdecombe, because the police have given another statement today where they have revealed that they believe she was deliberately targeted by the man that they have that they're questioning at the moment. And Reform have been quite loud, and I understand why, saying, look, things have got to change. We've had all of the debate over the last few months about Nigel Farage's personal safety and whether he was entitled to use this £5 million donation to pay for his safety. The Home Secretary has arranged a meeting between him and the chair of I think it's called the RAVEC committee. They decide which VIPs get protection and which don't, and he said he will have the meeting. So it'll be interesting to see what the result of that is. But Robert Jenrick has been speaking, and we'll hear what he had to say in a moment. And he wants to know what the government can do to improve safety for politicians. Now, when I said on my social media earlier that we were going to talk about in this hour, I said, well, what can be done to make politicians safe? And somebody replied, well, the same as any ordinary citizen. But they're not ordinary citizens, are they? They are representatives of us, the citizens. And if they want to represent us, they've got to be accessible to us. And I don't know how that can be achieved if they are in some sort of glass cage all the time. I mean, I exaggerate to make a point. But if I want to go and see my local MP, I don't want to sit behind a screen. I want to have a normal interaction with him. And I'm sure most of you would say the same thing. Some MPs are now not doing surgeries because they fear for their own safety. But I think we, as a society, probably have to accept that we cannot provide 100% security for our elected politicians. But the problem is, if people feel that their own personal safety isn't being taken seriously by the authorities, then they're less likely to put themselves up for election, aren't they? And that means that the quality of our elected representatives is reduced. So I want to hear your ideas for what you think could be done to improve MPs' security. Actually, I don't just mean MPs, because a lot of local councillors are getting a lot of abuse at the moment as well and fear for their personal safety. 0345 6060 973. Well, Bethany Dawson is here, LBC's political correspondent, to take us through, not just this announcement from the police today, but some of the political ramifications. Bethany, first of all, let's start with the police announcement. I mean, the only new thing was that they say that Anne Widdecombe was deliberately targeted.
And that was quite a big announcement. As you say, Head of Counter-Terrorism Policing Lawrence Taylor said that it was clear a degree of preparation and planning went into the killing of 78-year-old Anne Widdecombe, calling it a targeted attack.
It is clear that this was a targeted attack. We are still working to understand the extent of any planning or preparation and the motivation that sits behind that attack. And I do not want to comment further on this at this stage of our inquiries. Extensive searches have taken place at an address in Rotherham, and scenes remain in place as that activity continues. We have also been granted a warrant of further detention, which means the suspect can now be held for questioning for up to 7 days under the Terrorism Act. He remains under arrest on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism, as well as on suspicion of murder.
Now, this entire awful incident has, of course, caused a lot of pain to those who knew and loved Anne Widdecombe, both from her political life and her stardom that followed. But the incident has also reignited discussions around MP safety, with Reform saying that the government have failed Nigel Farage. The Reform UK Treasury spokesperson Robert Jenrick accused the government of a dereliction of duty over Nigel Farage's taxpayer-funded security, claiming it had previously been downgraded.
The Home Secretary is the ultimate arbiter of what happened in the Home Office. She isn't powerless, and no one would pretend so. Would she agree that it was unwise of the government to heavily reduce the security offered to the member for Clacton, given all that we know about his particular danger that is posed to him and to his family? Would she agree that, frankly, it shouldn't have taken the murder of Anne for him to be offered a meeting with the committee, and that many will conclude, perhaps unfairly, but nonetheless, that it is only because of the political views of the member for Clacton that he is placed in this position?
Now, the Home Office have said that Robert Jenrick's comments there were categorically untrue, with a spokesperson adding that ministers are not involved in deciding MPs' security.
Do you think the media has some responsibility here? Because I understand that pictures of Anne Widdecombe's house were shown, I think it was on a television programme fairly recently. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily linking that to the fact that she was killed, possibly by the person that's in custody at the moment. But it could be that turns out to be the case. And we all know what Keir Starmer's house looks like because there were pictures of his house, or not all of it, but some of it, which some people might be able to recognise after the firebombing of the car outside. So I think sometimes we may have to take a little bit of responsibility for actually keeping some aspects of MPs' lives private.
Yeah, I think the media kind of needs to operate in a way, and I say this as a member of the mainstream media, that we need to operate in a way where we acknowledge that MPs' security has changed vastly and is they are people in much more danger than they maybe were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And this is with extra precautions in place. Every MP is given a sort of panic alarm that they carry. Many of them carry it on their lanyards in Parliament or on their keys to quickly alert security services that something has gone wrong. It's not as though they're sort of left to their own devices.
But we also have to recognise that Anne Widdecombe was not an elected politician at the time that she was killed. Now, she was doing speeches up and down the country for reform. She had been, I don't think she was still a official sort of front bench spokesperson for them on justice and immigration, but she had been fairly recently. So, I mean, where do you draw the line? I mean, if, for example, somebody who had been a politician starts getting death threats, do the police then automatically think, OK, well, we need to provide some sort of extra security? What about celebrities? We've got all the stuff about Prince Harry and his family as well. It's very difficult to be definitive and say, well, this is where the line has to be drawn.
And I think that is often why you hear sort of this reasoning that this is all decisions are taken by a case-by-case basis. I thought it was interesting that Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood in the House yesterday did say that they would be reviewing the sort of protections for MPs after they finish their time as an MP, after they finish their time in Parliament, exactly because of what you were just saying. Protections do exist for MPs, but it doesn't mean that they leave the public spotlight after they leave the House of Commons.
Bethany, thank you very much. That's Bethany Dawson, there, LBC's political correspondent. Well, Paula Sheriff joins me now, former Labour MP, who was sent literally hundreds of violent threats, including ones to kill or rape her during her time as a parliamentarian. Paula, very good evening. I suppose, but when we talk about all of this, it brings back some very painful memories for you with what I know you had to go through when you were an MP.
Hi, Ian. Yeah, it's really good to talk to you this evening. And I actually listened to your show on Saturday. I was doing a long drive and I listened to all of your show. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that you and Anne were friends, and it is just beyond words. I cannot even begin to imagine what her loved ones are going through. So I just wanted to say that whilst Anne and I were very politically different and perhaps diametrically opposed, violence is never, ever the answer. And yes, you're right, it does bring back memories. I was particularly close to David Amos, despite, again, our very obvious political differences. And yeah, you kind of remember those days. And also when Joe Cox died, which was obviously just 2 or 3 miles up the road from where I live. And it does bring back those memories, and it's tough, but it also makes me feel really angry because I'm not saying that all of these attacks could be prevented. Unfortunately, sometimes there are lone wolves or whatever who take it upon themselves to do this. But I do think there's a lot more that can be done in general as a societal measure. And it makes me very angry and very cross that we're still in a position where we're still talking about MPs being, or former MPs being killed.
Well, just some breaking news. Andy Burnham has said that there should be what he calls a serious review of MP security. And he says, I'm certainly prepared to do that. Whenever... And of course, Anne wasn't an MP, which this is what makes it even more complicated, doesn't it? And that, I mean, you're no longer an MP, but you had all of those threats. You deserve protection as well. Take me through from the moment you were first elected. What kind of security were you offered, if any? Because I think new MPs today, they certainly have security briefings, and I think the system is better than it was possibly when you were first elected.
I agree. I just want to make 2 points, if that's okay, just before I go into that. The first one is, Andy's right, and I'm pleased that he wants to address this issue, but we don't need any more reviews. We've been reviewed. It's been reviewed till we're sick of reviews. We know what needs to be done. Let's legislate. Let's educate. And let's take on some of the social media companies as well. So it's a whole host of things that need to be done. I've actually got a list, something I feel really passionately about. And then, so when I was elected in 2015, basically we walked in, you were given virtually no security guidance. And the irony was, after 6 weeks after having been elected, I was sitting one night waiting to vote. It was a Monday night. I was sat in the tea room among some friends, and I got a message on Facebook from someone saying he was going to come and rape and kill me. And basically, there'd been an incident in my constituency that really sadly involved a very young, a boy going over to Iraq, and he was deemed Britain's youngest suicide bomber. So, and I'd put out a statement just calling for calm and tolerance in the community. It was very, very, uncontroversial, if you like.
The sort of thing that an MP should do.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the back of that, I got this threat, and that guy actually ended up going to court and got convicted. And on that occasion, the police were fantastic. As time went on, and I have to say, Brexit, and irrespective of what side of the debate you were on, it definitely evoked a whole sort of tsunami of abuse, and we saw obviously Joe's death happen just before Brexit. And then suddenly we were told, you can have your security at home, you can have enhanced security at your office. And it was, I wouldn't quite say money was no object, but it was like, you can have everything you want. And the irony was, I'd applied for some security at my office just before Joe died, and on the morning that Joe was taken, we received notification declining our request for this security, basically saying it wasn't justified. And there was just a real irony there, isn't there?
And how did they justify their decision?
I can't remember, if I'm really honest, but I know that it was declined, and we felt annoyed, we felt angry, and then after Joe was taken, they obviously rescinded that, and we were given not quite everything we wanted, but CCTV and alarms and all sorts. And then, unfortunately, this is another massive problem for me. The policing of these threats is really inconsistent. So let me just really briefly tell you about what happened to me last year. So I'm obviously no longer an MP. Last year I received a tweet, and it was public, saying you deserve a 9mm bullet in your head, and I hope you die of cancer, which is lovely. I'm a cancer patient, I'm a cancer survivor, so obviously unpleasant on both accounts. So I contacted my local police force. That's West Yorkshire Police. They came out the following day, took a statement off me. They were with me for a few hours. The man who sent this tweet, or I assume it's a man, is using a pseudonym on X. I reported the tweet or the post to X. They told me it did not contravene their community standards. Hello, really?
I mean,
you deserve a 9mm bullet in your head. Bearing in mind that I live 3 miles from Birstall, where Joe was killed.
Yeah.
And then So the police came round, never heard from them, eventually kept ringing them, didn't get in touch. Still haven't heard anything from the police. And I've just looked now prior to taking the call this evening. The last communication I received from the police was the 5th of November last year, saying we're still reviewing this case. We'll get back in touch with you when there's anything to tell you. Well, it's now July and I've heard nothing. And unfortunately, this has been my experience that I know of cases now, still keeping in touch with parliamentarians where, the police have come and they've laughed about death threats, that they found it funny. I'm not suggesting all police forces are the same. Some of them are brilliant. I had a terrible death threat a few years ago, and it transpired that the man who made it actually lived in Devon and Cornwall, and he's not associated with, well, as far as I'm aware, he's not associated with the current case. And they came all the way from London. They came all the way to London to see me, and they were fantastic. But I have to say, some of the treatment I had from my own local police force was absolutely shocking. And unfortunately, it appears that continues, because I'm still none the wiser as this man who's threatened, he said I deserve a 9mm bullet in my head. Like, I'm sure he didn't mean it. The vast majority of people don't, thankfully. But, we talk about violence against women and girls. Like, I've heard nothing in 7 months, 8 months.
Do you think if you had still had the letters MP after your name, that would be different?
Actually, no, I don't, Ian. Strangely enough, because I had so many poor experiences as an MP. And it got to the point where I said to West Yorkshire Police, I'm not reporting anything to you anymore. So I had a man who was leaving swastikas outside my office, often in the hours of darkness. And they eventually apprehended him. They got him on DNA, basically. It transpired, and he initially denied it all. And it was only when the DNA came back that he finally confirmed it was him, and they took no action. He got words of warning, and I was like, my office team were terrified, because at that time we didn't know it was an old guy. As far as we knew, It could have been something really sinister. And they wrote to me and they said he was having trouble sleeping. Because this case was hanging over him. I was like, he's having trouble sleeping. Do you want to speak to my office team? Who were terrified that some lunatic is leaving swastikas on my office doorstep.
I mean, I don't know whether you've got ambitions to return to the House of Commons or not, but does your experience, particularly in this regard, put you off making any attempt to go back? Because it's not going to get better, is it, in the short term?
No, I always said never say never in terms of going back. It's an incredible privilege to be there, and I'm very, very proud of some of the things I achieved during my short time there. But I'm not so sure now. I always said I wouldn't be scared, because that's what these people want ultimately. Yeah. There's a reason why women are attacked much more, or verbally and abused, and on social media. It's often women, people of colour, and gay people. Or LGBT people, and they're perceived to be more vulnerable. And I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. Like, you don't often see like men being criticised for what they're wearing in the House of Commons, do you? Whereas for women, it's like a skirt's too short, a top's too low, her shoes are inappropriate. And it's just a continuation of that. And now I'm not so sure, because I always said I wouldn't be cowed. Like, it's really important that we stand up to these people and we show them that democracy is more important. But I don't know. It's getting worse.
Well, you can imagine some of the abuse I've had over the last few days for being a gay man defending Anne Widdecombe.
Absolutely, I mean, like I say, anybody who suggests that she, for whatever reason, she deserved it or anything like that, it disgusts me. Like I say, irrespective of politics or views. I just, like I say, I can't bear to think about their passing.
No, absolutely. But it gets to the stage where, I had one of my best friends ring me yesterday, and he said, "What's your security like at home?" And I said, "Why would I be concerned about that?" He said, "Because you've just been all over the media for 4 days talking about a murder. And you are in the public eye. You say things on the radio, and somebody might take exception to those. What's your security?" And first of all, I just dismissed it. And then I thought, well, Yeah, I mean, we all have to think about these things nowadays in a way that we just wouldn't have done before.
Sometimes while I'm out in town or I might be shopping or whatever, somebody will come up and go, "Are you Paula Sheriff?" And I think, oh, like,
yeah.
you know, and I think, well, are you going to pull a knife out of your pocket? Or, you know what I mean? And I mean, you know, 99.9% of the time they just recognise me. Oh, well, did you used to be our MP? And thanks, you helped me with...
At least they didn't say, did you used to be Paula Sheriff?
No.
Jackie Smith used to get that a lot.
Oh my goodness. But you know, that's this, I mean, like, how, I don't know, it does worry me that women, it'll become a bit of a no-go area for women. We've made so much progress, haven't we, over the years?
Well, Paula,
are we going to start going backwards?
You have broken a record, because I'm going to the news 10 minutes later, sorry, to a break 10 minutes later than I'm supposed to. But I think, I was going to say I've enjoyed our conversation. I have, but that's not the right word to use, because it's important that everybody hears from people who've been at the Sharp End, who know what it's like to get these threats almost on a daily basis. So thank you for coming on tonight. That's Paula Sheriff, former Labour MP. I'm embarrassed to say it's 7:25.
This is LBC.
What you're hearing is real. The aliens have landed and they have something to say.
Take us to your dealer. Just 0.9% APR on every new Mini.
They just want to go to a mini retailer.
Mini.
You heard them. Off we go. Make contact at your nearest retailer and get 0.9% APR representative across the entire range with a 25% deposit and 24-month term. Mini UK is a credit broker. Order by 30th September, delivered by 31st December. PCP with Mini Financial Services. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. mini.co.uk/offers.
When your daughter's wedding guest list is double-sided, enjoy every hand-clapping second of it. Be a step ahead with Barclays Premier, with our best savings rates. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. T's and C's apply.
Before you renew your private health insurance, are you sure you're getting the right cover at the right price? At the Private Healthcare Company, we compare a range of leading providers to find cover matched to your needs, with a dedicated representative who'll support you from start to finish. Search the Private Healthcare Company today and see how much you could save on your renewal. The Private Healthcare Company, your personal private healthcare broker.
Iain Dale on LBC.
7:26. Normally, when I go too late to a break, I have one of my producers in my ear sort of urging me to go to the break. But you will understand that Chris is a real professional, and he didn't say a word in my ear during that, because it was a really important thing that I think we all needed to hear from Paula Sheriff. Right, but let's go to the calls. Let's go to Denise, who's in Whitehaven. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Ian. I am really sorry for the loss of your friend.
Thank you.
I didn't agree with any of your opinions or the way she delivered them. But what happened was absolutely beyond the pale. But the reason I was ringing is because I think all the parties need to they need to stop the rhetoric. They need to deal it down.
Dial it down, you mean? What, in terms of their rhetoric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're giving voices to people that should never be heard. All of them.
Like who?
Well, we've got the anti-immigration that blames everything on people that are not white. I have no idea why they went for Anne. Like I say, I've never agreed with anything she said, but I've agreed with her being able to say it. And I'm beyond disgusted what happened to her. But everyone seems to be jumping on this bandwagon where you can say what you want.
I think on social media, basically, you can. I mean, when you hear what Paula Sheriff said about the fact that Twitter or X, or I don't know what it was called at the time, probably Twitter, that they refused to take seriously. Somebody had tweeted saying that she needed a bullet through her head. I mean, if that doesn't warrant further action, I don't know what does. So
well, yes, how do we control social media? Because
you can't. That's the problem.
Control.
You can't control it. You can abolish bullshit. I mean, you can basically stop X operating in this country, but I don't think anybody would seriously suggest that that was warranted at the moment. And that also, let's bear in mind that there are plenty of politicians who don't want the sort kind of security that I think is now being suggested. As I said, I think last night, if you had said to Anne Widdecombe,
she'd have run them a riot.
Well, she would have said, no, I don't want a policeman standing outside my door 24 hours a day. Thank you very much. She was advised to get an electric gate in front of her property by a friend of hers, and she didn't want to because she wanted to live a normal life. And that's what everybody should be able to do.
I know I didn't agree with everything she spoke about, but I do admire her.
Yeah, and that was her unique appeal to people. And I've had so many messages over the past few days on social media, directly as well, from people like you who say, well, I didn't agree with much of what she said, but I respected her for being a conviction politician and standing up for what she believed in, even if I thought what she believed in was wrong. And I think we need more of that, don't you?
I do, but I don't think we've got politicians like that anymore.
Well, let's hope we can have a new breed of them over the next few years. I mean, there are some good ones in the House of Commons at the moment. We mustn't get into this idea that they're all rubbish.
They're all the same. I don't.
But to make a cheap political point, I mean, there's 400 Labour MPs and none of them seem to be good enough to take over from Keir Starmer, so they've had to import another one. But that is a cheap point, which is not worthy of me.
Cheap point. We have also some people that are going on the racist rhetoric, and it's not helping this country at all.
Yeah, well, you see, that's where, I mean, I do draw a line. I will not have people on my programme who I think are extremists because, I mean, Anne Widdecombe always said that she would engage with people who hold views like this because you have to defeat them by the power of argument. You can't ban people from holding the views that they hold. And I mean, she does have a point. But do I want somebody in my studio spouting these kind of views? The answer is no, I don't. And I'm not going to have them. Anyway, Denise, great call. Thank you very much indeed. We'll come to more of your calls. How can we keep MPs safer? Or do you take the view that actually they're still ordinary citizens like the rest of us? What about keeping the rest of us safe as well? That's what some people are saying. 7:31 news headlines with Tim Humphrey.
Counter-terror police have confirmed they believe Anne Widdecombe's death was a targeted attack, but officers say they're still trying to work out the motive. Prime Minister-elect Andy Burnham says there should be a serious review of MP security. Donald Trump now says ships shouldn't be charged for passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Instead, he's proposing trade and investment deals with Gulf states. A campaign launches later this year to raise awareness of national resilience. In 2027, we'll see the largest home defence exercise in decades, involving ministers and hundreds of officials. LBC weather, low cloud could spread inland from North Sea coast tonight, otherwise dry and clear, warm in the south, but a low of 10 degrees in Scotland.
This is LBC.
Check you're on track for a happy retirement with PensionBee's easy-to-use app. Because when your pension is in a good place, you're in a good place. When investing, your capital is at risk.
Squishmallow squad, get us underway. Oh, strong header from Maui. Straight to Boyle on the wing. Here comes Gordon. It's a goal!
The Squishmallow squad are now in Happy Meal. Some fun, some food. It's all inside this Happy Meal. Until the 3rd of August from 11 a.m. Includes one pre-selected book or toy. Squishmallows range comprises toys only. While stocks last. Fair ordering policy applies.
Ever notice how some things are just standard? Traffic on the M4, standard. Meetings that could have been an email, standard. But at Aon, our cars are driving the new standard. The new Aon V has rapid charging, standard. Panoramic glass roof, standard. 8 years servicing, 8 years MOT, 8 years roadside assistance, and up to 8 years warranty. Also standard. Thanks to our Great 8 promise. Search Aon Auto to test drive today. T's and C's apply.
Vodafone is backing the UK with an £11 billion investment to make the nation's biggest network even better.
Fair play, that's a big commitment.
So you can launch that business.
So I can start selling my model trains in Pwllheli.
Multitask in a haze of glory.
I could stream Wimbledon whilst on a video call.
Start doing more of what you love from more places. Opportunity awaits. Switch to Vodafone today on the Nation's network.
Nation's network means UK's biggest network through Vodafone 3 merger based on mobile sites versus major providers. Network improvements by 2034. See vodafone.co.uk/TNN, subject to coverage.
This is LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
7:34 on LBC. A little bit later this hour, we'll be talking to someone called Nigel Fletcher, a historian, who has written a new book on the relationship between Winston Churchill and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So we'll talk to him for a few minutes about that. But in the meantime, let's continue with your calls on MP's safety. Ian's in Aylesbury. Hello, Ian.
Yeah, hello there, and sincere condolences to everybody, and especially yourself, who obviously worked with Anne. So, I liked Anne, and she had the front to basically say what she wanted to say, and she had opinions, and some people liked them and some people didn't, but that's absolutely no excuse for what happened to her. Dreadful.
No, absolutely. I think we all agree on that, Ian.
And I think I'm right in understanding that all former prime ministers have a close protection officer,
yes,
pretty much for the rest of their lives, as far as I understand.
Yeah, which is a debate in itself at the moment, because I think we have 7 living ex-prime ministers now. So, I mean, the cost of that to the taxpayer is mounting.
Well, I mean, I've got my own opinion on that, but I think that, if we can afford to put people in 4-star hotels, illegals, we can afford to pay for MPs. All MPs and public figures should have protection. There was a LBC guy, I remember I used to listen to him on Saturday morning. I think it was an Asian guy, and I think he got beaten up in Leicester Square. He did his show, and he was at an ATM or something, and he got set on by some people. I can't remember the guy's name. You'll remember him.
When was this?
About a year ago. It was an Asian presenter. He used to present on, I think it was...
I think it was actually Ian Payne.
Can't remember.
Well, my producer's got a memory of it, and I think he would probably know. So anyway, but the point...
He's an LBC, and you're an LBC reporter, and, people like yourselves, I mean, the other one, it's daft, but footballers... they're on £500,000 a week, some of these boys. They should have close protection all the time, and, people like Elton John, celebrities, they all pay for their, their private protection. They pay for it privately.
Yeah, and so they should. I mean, I don't think I would be in favour of... footballers getting taxpayer-funded protection.
No. They should be able to pay. They should be paying for it themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing about their burglaries when they're out on tournaments and things like that, and their homes are getting burgled, and like Eccleston and people like that were getting their homes burgled. They should have 24-hour protection. But certainly MPs, if you're a cabinet minister or former cabinet minister, whether you like it or you don't, you should have a close protection officer with you. Always. That's my own opinion. A close protection officer should be looking after both serving and former cabinet ministers, as Anne was.
Well, she wasn't actually a cabinet minister. You see, this is the point. Where do you draw the line? And if you say all ex-cabinet ministers, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of people here. I mean, there has to be a limit to the cost. And I mean, there have been some people who've only been, under Liz Truss. I mean, there were some cabinet ministers there. Like one of the guys who was on Cross Question last week, Ranil Jayawardena, he was only a cabinet minister for 49 days. Now, are you seriously suggesting that that the taxpayer should have pay for close protection for someone who's been a cabinet minister for that shorter time?
Same with Liz Truss. People, she was a prime minister.
Well, I think that is slightly different. I mean, I think a prime minister, I don't think that should be limited. And maybe if you've been Northern Ireland secretary, I think the rules have changed on that in recent years, but they used to have a close protection for life. Ian, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Claude in Richmond Park. Claude, hi.
Hi, Ian. I'm concerned on the ethics of the financial outlay, because I'm aware that it's £31 million that's going to be cost for the protection of MPs. As I remember, in America, they still protect the ex-president. So idealistically, I was listening to your caller previously, and I think if MPs are going to be protected, it needs to come out of their own pocket than the taxpayer, because I think a lot of the British taxpayers would disagree with where their finances are going when they don't feel that there is a purpose of some MPs because they may not be delivering on their concerns or issues or everyday matters.
I think it's a bit difficult to say some MPs should get it and some MPs should not, and they have to pay for it themselves. I don't know what the criteria for that would be.
Well, idealistically, if we got an issue where Harry, the Duke of Sussex, is not able to get security that protects his family, then really everyone else, of course, should feel protected as well. At the moment, we've got no defence plan that really is satisfactory. However, it's been drawn out. So, yeah, it's just thinking about the ethics, because I think a lot of the British taxpayers would disagree with the amount of money that they would have to fit when it comes to the MPs that are able to, of course,
But I suppose that the response to that could well be, well, what price democracy? If we have to pay for security for our elected representatives to have a proper, thriving, safe democracy, that is money well spent.
On one hand, however, we would need to see the results. I think we need to see our MPs doing more, and I think a lot of people would say that they're not feeling that their MPs are doing more. And then also we need to look at the grassroots issues of why MPs are feeling unsafe as well, because there is a lot of political discord.
Well, there is, but then again, this is actually nothing new. There always has been. If you look back to the 18th, 19th centuries and the atmosphere then, and the horrible things that politicians would say to each other, far worse than they do now. I mean, it's easy to say that, well, it's the social media age, it's all to do with social media, but there has always been a degree of just horribleness in our political discourse, which we sometimes forget. It's not a new phenomenon.
It's very good that you're talking about the history. There has been history of historical, articles and stuff, and I'm glad that you've also brought it away from social media, because that's what I was also concerned about. But I would also say that I think if we look at the current situation right now, I think a lot of the topics people are feeling are being used as a political football. And when you've got like simple matters that kind of just need kind of proper diplomacy and proper kind of level thinking discussion, and you see the political football kind of continuing on, this is where people, I think, feel that there is a new angle of discord than what we had before.
Claude, what are you doing on Saturday night?
Not a lot.
Well, you could, if you wanted to, come and see me at Richmond Theatre. I'm doing an evening there with General Sir Richard Barrons and Matthew Dancona talking about my general's book and the world situation. So if you want an evening of military entertainment, you know where to come.
Well, thank you for the invite.
And if you do come, say hello. Thank you very much. Let's go to Jeffrey, who's in Harrow. Hello, Jeffrey.
Yeah, hi, good evening to you. It's quite funny listening to you. Horrible things people used to often met with wonderful humour. Remember, was it Lady Astor said to Churchill, if my husband, I'd poison you. I don't know if you were my wife, I'd drink it.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
These sort of things. And Disraeli,
We've got a problem with your line, Jeffrey. We're going to come back to you. In the meantime, let's go to Mick in Leeds. Hello, Mick.
Ian, how are you?
Very well, thank you. What would you like to tell us?
I'd just like to say the behaviour in the House of Commons doesn't help this issue. And the behaviour of people like Nigel Farage taking £5 million backhanders and right-wing marches and the Novak murder, and White Lives Matter and, creating those sort of divisive sort of right-wing sort of and conquering in the public life and so on. That doesn't help matters, but I don't think we should be providing police officers for every MP, because when you look at it, the balance of probability of MPs getting murdered is very sort of low, when you look at it in the grander scheme of things, probably 1 billion to 1. So, they just need to be a bit more proactive with regards to, for example, electric gates on the house, CCTV. And usually these nutters that come out of the woodwork are usually highlighted well before they take any action, which the police can deal with. So I think just a modicum of common sense needs to be taken in this case, and not police protection for all MPs.
Well, I agree with that. I don't think there should be police protection, but there are lots of other security measures that can be taken that will cost money, short of close protection, that I think probably ought to be considered.
Definitely, and that won't cost as much as police protection, just adequate CCTV, maybe electric gates. That won't cost as much as constant police protection for every MP, and the number of MPs in the House of Commons. And where do you draw the line? It could then go to the House of Lords and, provide protection for them. We just need a bit of common sense. It's horrible that this has happened to a lovely lady like Anne Widdecombe. And it's just disastrous that that's happened. But I think you'll find as we go through this, you'll probably find that gentleman's got mental health issues, like these other people who go out on these attacking sprees with knives in public society. And we just don't have enough police officers to, patrol our streets, never mind protect MPs. So there just needs to be that bit of common sense and just calm down a little bit and respect the poor lady who was murdered.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to Richard, who's in Taunton. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Ian. I'm ringing in response to your first caller, Denise, who said that, politicians need to dial back the rhetoric, which was a rather vague remark. And when you asked her to clarify, the first thing she said was, this anti-immigration rhetoric. And it seems to me that, believing that immigration in this country is too high is a perfectly acceptable political view. And there seems to be a great push by progressives, politicians and others to shut that debate down. Whereas, in fact, most of the country thinks that immigration has been too high for a long time. And it seems to me a perfectly acceptable political view that people get a lot of criticism for. And I think it relates to, the issue of MP safety, particularly Nigel Farage, because on the one hand, people say, yes, MPs shouldn't get all these threats. And they will reluctantly include Nigel Farage in that as well. Of course, Nigel Farage shouldn't get these threats either. But on the other hand, they go, well, his views are rather extreme, as almost as though, to some extent he's brought it on himself. I just don't see that, arguing that immigration in this country is too high is anyway extreme.
No, I agree with you, but I mean that
time and time again.
This is a bit of an incendiary debate. That doesn't mean to say we shouldn't have it, but I think politicians of all parties need to be careful of the language that they use. And I think there have been MPs on the right of politics who have used incendiary language from time to time, just as there are MPs on the left who've used incendiary language about Israel and Palestine. So, I mean, this is something that I think all politicians have got to consider. And also those of us that are in the public eye and active on social media. And I'm going to be completely honest here in that I know that I sometimes go over the top on social media because it's something you see somebody say something and you react very quickly and you kind of say something a little bit more extreme than you really mean to. And I nearly did that when I saw what Peter Tatchell had said about Anne Widdecombe on Friday. But I didn't. I moderated what I'd said and did it in a very logical way. And I think people reacted well to that. And we've all got to try and do a little bit more of that and not react in a violent way. I don't mean violent physically, but in a violent way on social media, because it just drags the whole public discourse down. Before we go to debate, I just want to read out this email I've had from an MP. I'm not going to say who it is or what their party is, but I think it is worth reading out. It's my emails are in such small font. I need to put my glasses on. Ian, sorry for the loss of Anne. I expressed that sorrow to Richard Tice too, as we need to show as colleagues that we do care about each other despite different political views. Please don't mention my name or my seat, as it will highlight security that I don't have. When elected, we were offered a security assessment of our home. One of the options was that we could have a fireproof letterbox. However, with a young family, how do you explain to your 3 children that someone might want to firebomb your home? So not only adapting to a parent being away from home a lot, but then also leaving them in fear that their own home isn't safe. Thought it was worthwhile sharing this insight. We see that is the dilemma. I mean, everybody wants to be secure, but they don't want the security to be intrusive. Well, in a moment, we will talk about a new book that's coming out later this week, which will focus on the relationship between 2 of the biggest names in the history of this country, the late Queen, Elizabeth II, and Sir Winston Churchill. We'll be talking to Dr. Nigel Fletcher in just a moment. It's 7:48.
This is LBC.
Tony, what do you want to tell me? Good morning.
Scott has called from Glasgow. Hi, Scott.
James in Camden first. Hi, James.
You know at that moment that you're going to have to find an extra £15 billion from somewhere to pay for it.
I didn't have all of the details.
There's a hand grenade kind of lobbed at you by the outgoing Prime Minister.
Hear every side of the story.
Working class Prime Minister who's going to instill some old-style English values.
This awful authoritarian Labour government. Andy Burnham is sliding straight into number 10, unchallenged.
So I feel massive relief.
Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app. LBC, leading Britain's conversation.
With the birthday draw, Global and ITV give you the chance to win a life-changing £1 million. In fact, the birthday draw is the only weekly draw where you can win £1 million for just £1. So, enter before midnight on Sunday from as little as £1 or via post at thebirthdaydraw.com. Is it your lucky day? From Global and ITV. T&Cs apply. 18 plus UK only. No purchase necessary. Verify at thebirthdaydraw.com/verify.
This is my throne, my castle, my kingdom. I have conquered these lands and crushed my enemies. Those who do not bow before me will be thrown into the dungeons.
All right, Liam, can you get off the throne and let the kids have a go?
All right.
Download the Southern Railway app and discover the historic South East with kids' train tickets for £2 on off-peak journeys. Southern Railway, where every stop is a story. Terms apply.
Honey, there's something wrong with my eye.
Is it itchy? Is it dry? Someone poked you in the eye? Is it gunky? Is it gooey? Is it sticky at the side? Is it pink? Is it red? Some discomfort in your head? Dodgy eyes are the worst. Don't waste time. Call Specsavers first.
It's icky.
If you've got an eye problem, call Specsavers and speak to an expert. If necessary, we have urgent appointments set aside. We provide NHS eye health services across London. See eligibility and postcode criteria online or in store.
Vodafone is backing the UK with an £11 billion investment to make the nation's biggest network even better.
Fair play, that's a big commitment.
So you can launch that business.
So I can start selling my model trains in Pwllheli.
Multitask in a haze of glory.
I could stream Wimbledon whilst on a video call.
Start doing more of what you love from more places. Opportunity awaits. Switch to Vodafone today on the Nations Network.
Nations Network means UK's biggest network through Vodafone 3 merger based on mobile sites versus major providers. Network improvements by 2034. See vodafone.co.uk/TNN. Subject to coverage.
Iain Dale. Text 84850. This is LBC.
7:51 on LBC. Now, I think I should be spending the next 10 minutes talking about my book, which comes out tomorrow, but I wouldn't do that. It'd be too self-indulgent. Have I said too much is the title, by the way, just in case you wanted to know. But I have a book in my hands here called Churchill's Queen, The Remarkable Friendship That Shaped Our Age. Very handsome cover. It has two. It's by Nigel Fletcher, who joins me now. Now, Nigel, whenever a new book featuring Winston Churchill comes out, I always think, well, that surely must be the last one, because, I mean, there are so many books about Churchill. How did you come on? Why did you decide to write about his relationship with the Queen? Because they did cross over for like a couple of years when she became Queen, but it wasn't the longest relationship that you could have written about.
No, and I think that's really, I mean, I'm a political historian primarily, so writing something that touches on the royal family, although that's another interest of mine, was kind of a departure for me. But what I find fascinating about their relationship is the fact that in the middle of the 20th century, you had these two iconic figures. We might overuse the word iconic, but they are two huge figures in British history, perhaps the biggest of the 20th century. And as you say, they overlap for a relatively short time, but it was at the end of his career and at the beginning of her long reign. And there's a fascinating dynamic about that, both between their personal relationship, the fact that he was an elderly man, a Victorian, really, and she was a young woman. And so you've got that personal difference between them, but also the fact that of these two extraordinary lives, they overlap and they knew each other. And what I found fascinating as I researched it was not only did they know each other and were quite friendly with each other, they developed really a very strong friendship and affection between each other. So that was the fascination for me as I sort of went into the research on it. I was interested mostly in the sort of constitutional and sort of political aspects of it, but it was the personal relationship between them that just kept coming out through all of the research I did.
And I mean, you obviously did a lot of research for the book. I mean, it's 350 pages long. What did you find out that was new? Because that's the challenge in a book like this, isn't it? Not just to rehash what everybody else has written down the years and put it all together in a book.
Yes.
But you want to sort of find some nuggets from the papers.
Well, there were a number of things. And what's really great about archival research, and I primarily like to go back to the archive, I like to look at the papers and see the things that the people you're writing about saw, or the things that they wrote. And we have the advantage that we do have a huge amount of Winston Churchill's papers, almost too much for anyone really to look at. And on the other hand, we don't have really very much of Elizabeth II's. The official biography is just beginning now to start looking at that sort of stuff. So you have a huge wealth of material on one side, not very much on the other. I found a few really interesting things. I went to the Royal Archive and I was lucky enough to be able to look at George VI's diaries, the Queen's father. And there's some really interesting elements there about during the Second World War, Winston Churchill was absolutely adamant that the two princesses should not be sent abroad. They should not be evacuated to safety. And the story always goes that the reason that they stayed in this country was because the princesses wouldn't leave without the Queen Mother wouldn't leave without the King, and the King would never leave. And what I discovered was actually the King and the then Queen, later the Queen Mother, were quite keen for them to go, actually. And Churchill was insistent.
To Canada or something?
They were insistent that they should look at ways to get them out of the country and get them to safety, as understandably you might want to do. Churchill, in a way that probably we haven't actually had revealed before, was insistent that they shouldn't go. That's one thing. There are a number of other elements. I found, for example, what I think is the first official constitutional warrant that Elizabeth II signed as Queen. So she returned from Kenya, and on the evening that she got back to Clarence House, she was presented with some papers. And I found in a very obscure file in the National Archives what I think is the first thing that she signed that had official constitutional importance. So there's lots of little things like that. But really, as you say, bringing the sort of things that we do already know together actually creates a picture of the relationship. And in a quite extraordinary way, you see that they, despite the huge age difference and the difference in their attitudes, they had quite a lot that united them. Horse racing, for example. They were both very keen horse owners, and they enjoyed going racing together. But I did also find that Churchill edited a number of speeches that the Queen gave to insert his own sort of prejudices into it, particularly on things like the Commonwealth, which he had a particularly different view of to the view that the Queen had.
Now, towards the end of his time as his second term as Prime Minister, this would have been in 1954, early 55, he had a stroke which incapacitated him, and effectively his son-in-law, Christopher Soames, took over being Prime Minister, and no one knew he was doing it. I mean, a constitutional outrage in many ways. Did the Queen know about this?
She did, and this is a debate that's been picked over a number of times in certain dramas on television. The suggestion has been that she didn't know the extent of his incapacity. In my research and from what we have seen, she did know. And Jock Colville, who was Churchill's private secretary, was ordered by Churchill to cover it up. It said, tell nobody, pretend that I'm still running the government. And he knew, to give Colville his credit, he knew that he had to tell the Queen. And so we know that she was told, she was in Scotland on a tour at the time, she was told that she might have to appoint a new Prime Minister by Monday. And we know that she was told that. And she wrote a letter, which on the face of it looks as though she didn't quite know the extent of it. She said, I hope it's nothing serious. But we know that she was told.
But surely her role as monarch should have meant that she should have taken Winston Churchill aside at that point and said, Winston, you've got to quit now. I mean, this cannot go on. This is not right for our democracy.
Yes. There are a number of points where you could argue that she should perhaps have tried to persuade him to stand down, because no one else could have done. But you have to bear in mind that she was a new monarch. She at first didn't know him very well. And by the time she had the stature to probably tell him, I think she was more...
but she had a lot of advisors who could have said, Your Majesty, this is what you must do.
And she had members of the cabinet who were effectively trying to say that.
Very keen.
So we can only conclude, and I do think a large part of this was that she didn't want to confront him about it directly. But what I think you see is, over the course of the time that he was Prime Minister, she kept giving him what I describe as retirement presents. She kept giving him these honours, like the Garter. She made him a Garter Knight. That's something that, as you know, Iain, now politicians now who are out of office covet being given the Garter. And it's a club of sort of former politicians. She gave him that whilst he was still Prime Minister. There are a number of elements where I think she was gently trying to say to him, here's your retirement present. You've done enough. You should leave. And I do think, and one of the suggestions I make in the book, although we'll never really know, but I think there is some evidence from the sequence of events that I pieced together that when he wavered at the very last minute, because he kept doing this, he kept saying he was going to retire and then didn't. At the very last minute, there was an audience, and after that audience, he went for dinner with Anthony Eden. And beforehand, he was saying, I don't think Anthony can do it. Maybe I'll stay for a bit longer. He went to see the Queen, and he came away from that, and he went off to see Anthony Eden and was absolutely good as gold, and said, yes, of course I'm going to retire. And I think it's very possible that the late Queen raised an eyebrow and said, I think that's probably for the best.
And it's always been speculated that she thought he was her favourite Prime Minister. I think Harold Wilson was one of the others. But did your research corroborate that?
Oh, completely. One of the quotes that we have about the relationship between the Queen and Prime Ministers is James Callaghan's. He said that Prime Ministers with the Queen, they can expect friendliness but not friendship. Well, she wrote him a letter, a very interesting letter, 10 years after she became Queen, when he was a very old man, obviously, and said, I'll always be grateful that you were my first Prime Minister. And she referred to the great friendship that existed between them and between her father and Churchill. And she put it in writing, and I think for her to say, this was a friendship, going into the research on this book, I wasn't quite sure we could call it a genuine friendship. It absolutely was.
Well, I think you should follow this up with a book about Thatcher and the Queen. There have been a couple of those, but I'm not sure they got to the truth. And the Crown certainly didn't get to the truth.
And I don't think their relationship was anything as close as this one.
Nigel, really good luck with the book. It is called Churchill's Queen, The Remarkable Friendship That Shaped Our Age. It's published by Penguin. Is it Penguin? Ebury Press at £25 in hardback, far thicker than my little tome. Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Now, coming up in a moment on Cross Question, we have the Conservative MP Graham Stewart, Baroness Jenny Jones, Green Party peer, Poppy Coburn, Associate Comment Editor at the Daily Telegraph, and Mike Galsworthy, Chair of the European Movement UK Campaign Group. They'll be here to answer your questions. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You can WhatsApp on that number, you can text 84850, and of course you can watch us on Global Player, the LBC app and the LBC YouTube channel.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, Andy Burnham says there should be a serious review of MP security, and he's prepared to deliver one. It's after counter-terrorism police said the former Minister Anne Widdecombe was killed in a targeted attack. Former Labour MP Paula Sherriff told Iain Dale she received thousands of violent threats, including ones to kill or rape her during her time as a parliamentarian.
Last year, I received a tweet saying, you deserve a 9mm bullet in your head, and I hope you die of cancer. I'm a cancer survivor, so obviously unpleasant on both accounts. So I contacted my local police force, took a statement off me. I reported the post to X. They told me it did not contravene their community standards. The police came round, never heard from them, still haven't heard anything from the police.
MPs have unanimously approved the Hillsborough Law, legislation designed to prevent cover-ups like that seen in the aftermath of the 1989 disaster. Speaking in the Commons, Sir Keir Starmer said campaigners have waited far too long for the legislation.
The Hillsborough families fought so that no family like them should ever have to endure and suffer what they went through. What they have done will protect individuals and families that they'll never know, they'll never meet, but will never have to go through what they went through.
It's finally been agreed how best to include intelligence services without putting national security at risk. The government's promised to learn lessons from the inquiry into the handling of COVID. A report from it today's found 10 of the £15 billion spent on PPE was wasted, mainly through poor procurement. It also says the so-called VIP lane for suppliers should never be repeated. Donald Trump has scrapped plans to charge a 20% toll on shipping for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. The US president says it will be replaced by trade and investment deals with Gulf states. Iran says it's come under further attack this evening, while itself targeting military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait. And a homeowner arrested for murder after shooting a teenage intruder dead in Derbyshire will face no further action. Prosecutors say the man in his 50s used his right to defend himself when confronted by burglars in Whaley Bridge. 3 men face burglary charges. In the city, the FTSE 100 closed up 31 at 10,529. The pound buys $1.34 and €1.17. LBC weather, low cloud could spread inland from North Sea coasts tonight, otherwise dry and clear. Warm in the south, but a low of 8 degrees in Scotland. Cloud in the east lifting tomorrow morning, otherwise mainly fine, dry and sunny. Hot with thunder in the southwest, highs of 14 to 30. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Matt Hewitt.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. It's 4 minutes past 8 on LBC. I'm Iain Dale. Welcome to Tuesday's Cross Question. Let me introduce you to our panel. To my left, Poppy Coburn is Associate Comment Editor of the Daily Telegraph. Next to her, making his debut on the programme, is Dr. Mike Galsworthy, Chair of the European Movement UK Campaign Group. To my right, Baroness Jenny Jones, Green Party peer, former Deputy Mayor of London under Ken Livingstone. We never hear about Ken Livingstone anymore. Is he okay?
No.
He's not. We'll talk about that a bit later. I'm sad to hear that. Graham Stewart is Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness and a former Energy Security and Net Zero Minister. They are here to take your questions. 0345 6060 973. You can text on 84850 and you can watch us in glorious Technicolor on the LBC app, Global Player and the LBC YouTube channel.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Cross Question. Watch live on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Right, let's start off with a text question. It's from Gordon in Hampstead, who always asks good questions. He says, should there be a law against showing the home of any elected politician on any searchable media? Now, I guess this comes in the light of the fact that it's been discovered that Anne Widdecombe's home was shown on the television programme not that long ago. We saw pictures of Keir Starmer's house, and I don't mean number 10, where he used to live. I think he still owns the house. I think it is an interesting question, Graham Stewart. Do these incidents make you feel at all nervous about sort of the fact that people can discover where you live?
Well, of course, I've seen colleagues Joe Cox, since I was elected to Parliament, killed. I've seen David Amos killed. So it's a real issue. And Anne Widdecombe, who I know you were terribly close to, Ian, and someone I didn't know that well, but I knew her quite well. And she was just a wonderful person with that tremendous spark in her eye and sense of humour. And for her to be killed is just appalling. It's the worst moment to decide on what you should do about something is in its immediate aftermath when your feeling is at its strongest. So I'm not sure in this modern world that we can pass a law that makes it illegal to film me walking down a street that happens to show my house in the background. And as a public official, you just have to accept that, yes, you're in the public eye. And notwithstanding those tragic incidents, I generally don't feel danger. I do feel that Parliament is taking it more seriously now. The police used to be criticised for not really responding properly to concerns from public officials. That's changed, and very quickly after Anne's tragic death, I was contacted by the police constable who liaises with all the MPs in the Humberside police area, and he reassured me and asked if I needed anything, wanted anything, and is always on hand to try and provide additional security if it's required.
Jenny Jones.
I don't do anything outside where I live. I do media interviews in Parliament or in the car park, or in a garden or something like that, or on my allotment. I have done a media interview on my allotment because I'm so proud of my allotment. But I think it is best if you don't advertise where you live. But I understand, other people might know better, that Nigel Farage, for example, did actually do an interview outside his daughter's house, and it was shown on film. And so it's very difficult if you do that sort of thing then to claim that it's dangerous for
and
others
of course,
to do it.
When Anne Widdecombe bought her house on Dartmoor in 2008, she renamed it Widdecombe's Rest, which, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I'm sure if you typed in Widdecombe Dartmoor, if you knew she lived on Dartmoor, you'd probably be able to find the address quite easily.
I think it's best to be careful in case. But whether or not there should be a rule about it or a law about it, I'm really not sure. I hate making more laws.
Okay. Poppy.
I have to agree with that. I think a law doesn't make sense in this instance. We don't want to end up in a situation where MPs are having to live in kind of fortresses completely kept away from the general public. I think that's the worst possible lesson to take from when a tragic event like this happens, is that people feel too afraid to actually engage with their constituents. We should be empathetic towards MPs. I think if the public knew even a tenth of the threats that MPs are actually living through, because a lot of it does not make the media, and politicians do not talk about it, I think they would be absolutely horrified. But we don't want to have to live in a fortress society either. I think ultimately it's a question of consent. If you consent to have your house being put online, then that is fine. That is your choice to do so. If you do not, I can see why it's distressing. And when it is regards to the media, we had the Leveson inquiry. Things have changed since then. The media did not behave in the way that they used to. And I think a lot of people in journalism would be very, very keen to see the highest possible standards upheld, particularly at a time like this, when I imagine everyone who is in politics in the public eye is feeling unsafe again.
Mike Galsworthy.
Yeah, I agree with the others. I don't see the utility of knee-jerk imposition of laws here. But I think where there's bad practice by media, we do call that out, and we should be calling that out. If you're going to film a politician outside their house without their agreement, or just film it at another time, for what purpose? And I think in general with the media, we do need to get away from personalities and tribalism and actually be higher than this and actually think of ourselves as a community together that discusses ideas. I think we need a lot more collaborative and community approach to doing politics than some of the gladiatorial and gotcha angle, which really does start singling out individual politicians for abuse.
But what about if a politician has been accused of some financial mismanagement or whatever, and either a tabloid newspaper or and of course, newspapers and radio stations now, everything has to be envisioned, so they'll have a camera crew with them, and they sort of follow the MP to their house. The MP, they don't sort of go onto the territory of the house, but they film the MP sort of going in the. What you're suggesting is that should not be allowed. Now, a lot of people in the media would say, well, that's outrageous. That's impinging on press freedom.
Well, they can still try and ask the person questions, but actually showing where they live. Again, I don't think anyone here is saying that we should ban that, but you can call it out as that's not great practice. When someone is getting back onto their home turf, which is recognisable, you've had your shot at talking to them, now leave them alone.
Is there a danger? I was interested to hear what you said, Graham, about sort of almost having a knee-jerk reaction to an individual event, because if there is sort of some degree of legislation, often you introduce legislation very quickly, and it's not good legislation. And
bad cases make good law. Yeah, bad cases make bad law.
Your job in the House of Lords is obviously to scrutinise bills, and you will have come across bills sort of probably quite often that have been drafted in haste, and you repent at leisure.
Dangerous Dogs Bill.
Yes, exactly. Although that was now 35 years ago. So.
I know, but I think Graham probably remembers it.
He wasn't in Parliament at the time.
I think Poppy was right. It's the most important single thing here is that we don't put up barriers between elected people and their constituents. I've been an MP for, as you know, Iain, 21 years, and my street surgeries, which I hold in Beverley and Heddon and Withensea and villages like Skirler and Walkington and others, I advertise them in advance. And I just
so can people just drop in?
And they can just, well, exactly.
So they don't make appointments.
The whole point is it's in the street.
Right.
And sometimes I get the advice, we're not sure you should do this, Mr. C. And I'm thinking, God, suddenly you've got to apply to see the Right Honourable Graham Stewart. You're putting all these barriers up, like coming to see me is a huge thing. No, I'm their representative. I want them to come up and go, actually, Graham, I wasn't going to talk to you, but now I've seen you now. Can I just tell you what happened to me yesterday with my daughter? I can't get her a dentist, and I've heard them on the telly, and they're saying that you can, and I can't, and that's so valuable. And when I raise it with the Secretary of State, which I can do because of the magic of our democratic system, I'll sit and talk to James, the Secretary of State for Health now, and say, I could have a 30-second conversation directly from that person who feels utterly powerless only because the barrier is out of the way, and that's what's important.
It's intimidating enough, I think, for an ordinary person who just leads a normal life, doesn't interact with authority very much, but something comes up and they need to see their MP. Well, it's intimidating enough just somebody has the letters MP after their name. But if they have to make an appointment and go into a room where you're sat behind a bulletproof screen, that's going to put people off, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Iain, you must get approached in the street. You must get... I've had two different people who've spoken to you on the bus.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
I had it a few years ago. I was on the platform at Tunbridge railway station, and this guy came up to me and he goes, "You're Iain Dale, aren't you? I know where you live." And I'm thinking, oh my God. And I said, oh, right. And I just got on the train, and then, idiot that I am, I tweeted about it. And of course, he followed me on Twitter. He said, "I'm so sorry to have spooked you." But it did spook me. I had a guy come up to me in M&S at Charing Cross Station last night on the way home. And he just tapped me on the shoulder and he just said, "Love your commentary on TV." He said, which was lovely. And you don't want to sort of stop people doing that, but you can easily get spooked.
But if you remember, Ken Livingstone, when he was mayor, he always took public transport. Yeah. And Boris Johnson, when he was mayor, he cycled everywhere. But Sadiq can't do that. I mean, he has death threats.
He has an armoured Range Rover.
He does, and he has full-time security.
And gets a lot of criticism for it, which I think is unjustified.
Absolutely.
It's ultimately a question of choice, isn't it? I don't think anyone wants to end up with an American-style system where senators are being followed around with a team of about 20 or so staffers and armed guards. I mean, we're lucky in this country that we don't have total proliferation of handguns, which I think does change the equation somewhat for politicians. But I don't think anyone at the moment, when the central question of our politics is people feeling that they are not represented by the political establishment, wants to see what they perceive as the political establishment retreat behind, even when I was walking over here, I walked past the House of Commons, there's a massive gate up now.
Yeah.
I mean, we know why. We know why it's there. We know why the bollards are there. It's to stop terrorist attacks from happening. But when you see that, there is something that kind of breaks your heart, because you go, what a shame this has had to happen.
I remember when the barriers went up at the end of Downing Street, and I mean, that was a big thing. That was quite well into Margaret Thatcher's term in office. And as a child, I mean, I remember standing in front of Number 10. It was a big thing for children to do in those days, and it's a shame they can't now. But we do live in a different age. Just to tell you, at 9 o'clock, we're going to be in the company of a poet. We don't normally have poets on the programme. But if you were watching Britain's Got Talent this year, you will have seen Sonny Green. And I had him on my programme over Christmas because he's wrote this brilliant poem about what it's like to be English. He's a market trader from Southend. He's made a real name for himself. He's got a big hit out at the moment called An Englishman in New York, all to do with the World Cup. And he's going to be with me in the studio for the 9 o'clock hour, and he'll be taking your calls as well. So do stick around for that. It's 17 minutes past 8.
This is LBC.
Want a simple way to earn a fixed monthly income? At ULEZ Prosperity, you buy a ULEZ compliant vehicle from us, rent it back to us for a fixed monthly income, and at the end of the term, we buy it back from you at a fixed agreed price. We manage the vehicle, driver and operations. You simply receive the monthly income. Buy, rent, sell. It's that simple. Get conditions at ulezprosperity.com. Earn a steady monthly income at ulezprosperity.com. At
Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when the delicious 3 for £8 deli spread is what you remember from the garden party rather than why you were having it in the first place. Make it a summer to remember with 3 for £8 on our Moorish deli range, including creamy mozzarella balls with fresh basil pesto and pine nuts, juicy black garlic chorizo with wildflower honey, and aromatic Thai green chicken meatballs. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Prices may vary in Channel Islands, Little Waitrose and partners and concessions.
London, the app for black cabs is here. Jump! Get about with drivers who have the world-famous knowledge and know every street in London. And unlike other black cab apps, you'll only pay the meter fare. No booking fees, no surge fees, no it's raining fees, no there's a game on fees. No fees ever. Just tap the app to hail your black cab. Jump, the app for the cabs that make London, London. Download Jump today.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
It's 90 minutes past 8. We have the chair of the European movement, Mike Galsworthy. Believe it or not, Mike, I used to speak for the European movement in the 1980s. How times change.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very old organisation. Yeah. It was founded in 1948 by Winston Churchill and some French and Belgian counterparts. And then the next year, 1949, they wrote the first draft of the ECHR, and it's still in the library of the ECHR in Strasbourg. And then also in 1949, European Movement UK was founded. And it was this organisation that won in 1975. But in 2016, David Cameron had, it was a lot smaller by then, but David Cameron also had other ideas of how referendums should be fought.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah.
Poppy Coburn is here, Associate Comment Editor of the Daily Telegraph, Baroness Jenny Jones, Green Party peer, and Graham Stewart, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness. Right, let's go to another text question from Darren in London. With rumours that a social media curfew will be announced tomorrow, well, Keir Starmer really is getting his legacy stuff done, isn't he? How can a Labour government say kids can vote at 16 but can't use Twitter at 15? Why does the Conservative Party support this too? Because it means digital ID for everyone, something they told us they do not want. Now, reports say the government is set to announce new social media restrictions for young people, which will introduce curfews on using the platforms for 16 and 17-year-olds. Poppy.
I agree wholeheartedly with that point. I happen to have been the first generation that grew up with smartphones and use social media regularly. I hope I haven't been too messed up as a result, although you guys can be the judge of that. Ultimately, no, I do not think this law has been particularly well thought out. We were speaking before the break about laws that are written in, fear after a major event. I happen to agree. I think this is populism of the worst kind. I think it is a popular policy, but I do not think it is a wise one. One of the reasons for that is I can just pick holes in it now. I mean, teenagers use social media as their primary form of communication. So if you are a 17-year-old and you've got a curfew on and you've been out at a party, as 17-year-olds are wont to do, how are you going to get in contact with lots of your friends if that is your primary mode of communication? I do also agree with the digital ID point. I mean, lots of people have told me that actually there's this fantastic technology that means that phones don't actually have to check any identity because they can use things like bank cards, to which, of course, the rebuttal is, well, that is a form of identification. And then the other point will be that we ask people for ID when they're getting alcohol. We ask people for ID if they want to, drive a car. These are not communication technologies, and so the implications for free speech are obviously not the same. So I'm very strongly against what both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are doing with this law, but I recognise that is unfortunately a minority opinion, and I do wish sometimes that young people could have been consulted. Mm-hmm. We do have first-hand experience of it. There you go.
Well, I was listening to one of the news bulletins earlier, and I'm sure they said there was a report out today or this week that where they've done a trial with some young people with these kind of measures, and the young people themselves actually say, well, they're getting much better sleep, and they're actually rather in favour of it. Mike?
I think, generally speaking, Keir Starmer is far too authoritarian in his approach. And now that he's going, it's easier to say that. But right across the board, I worry that has been his modus operandi. I think with this, what I would want to see is a pilot study. But once you have a pilot study, you don't say, we've got the pilot study, therefore this is the policy we're putting in. It needs public discussion. It needs wider feedback. It could be tried in a few places and it could be rolled out more slowly. If you're developing responsible policy, what works organically, you can make grow. If you just do blanket impositions because you're looking at, what plays well in the polls, then you're not actually being responsible about it.
Okay, Jenny?
I agree with Poppy here. I think it's a ridiculous piece of legislation. Well, you see, it's not just a minority opinion, but why are they putting this burden on parents and on children? I do not understand that. Once again, it's both Tories and Labour coming from completely the wrong direction. It should be the companies themselves that are responsible for containing the bad content. Kids are just going to get better at getting around the
good point.
I'm a bit tired, Ian. You're going to have to fill in some words.
You're doing very well so far.
Oh.
So let me give you something to chew on. In Australia, they've introduced a similar law to this. And some people think it's been quite successful, but about 40% of kids have got around it. Now, the argument is, but 60% haven't, so it's better than the situation before. I mean, if you just take the view that, it's inevitable that some kids are going to get around it, is it worth doing?
I absolutely don't think it is. I think that we should ask the companies to control the content that goes out. It is not.
We've been doing that for 20 years, and they've basically stuck two fingers.
Well, you fine them, or you do something. You hit them in the pocket or where it hurts. I was on holiday for a week recently, the first holiday I've taken for quite a long time, and I managed to turn my phone off for 3 days. And my daughter showered me with praise for it because she knows I'm so hooked on my phone. So it's really difficult. You do get hooked.
You'll have to let me have your secret. Graham?
Well, I agree with Jenny's last point that you get hooked. And we know these vast companies, trillion-dollar companies, set up algorithms precisely in order to get us addicted. And young people don't have those protections. And that's why I do think it's, in principle, that's why it's overwhelmingly popular, that we should find some protection against these tech giants for young people who can be manipulated. Jenny accepts that herself. She says that the burden should be put on the companies. Well, that's exactly. The effort has been made for years to get them to behave in the right way. They haven't. So you bring in a social media ban, and where I agree with Poppy is you've got to get the details right, because if there's educational content on YouTube, I went to an event for home-educated children on Friday, Education Otherwise, 50 years celebrating of that alternative form of education. You don't want to ban people accessing the very educational facilities they need. So you've got to frame it right. And Poppy was right on the detail, but we've got to put the pressure, where I agree with Jenny, put the pressure on the companies. I think, having said that we're going to do this, it does put the pressure on the companies, and then we need to get the details.
Why is this being introduced tomorrow at the fag end of Keir Starmer's government? Surely it should be up to the new Prime Minister to... and for all I know, we know nothing about what Andy Burnham thinks about anything, but I've got no idea what he thinks about this. Poppy?
Again, I quite agree. Just one point I want to bring up quickly from what you said about algorithms. I would just ask, from a Conservative Party perspective of wanting to see the state not necessarily overbearing, where do you actually end with this? You mentioned algorithms being specifically designed to be addictive. That's not quite correct. Algorithms are very complicated. Obviously, these products are designed to make people spend a lot of time in the app. That is why they are apps. But you could say the same thing about sugar, for example, right? So would we ban children under the age of 16 from buying sweets? These are formulated to be addictive. They go straight to the head. They have a psychoactive substance in a way. That's what sugar is. It's very powerful. And they're very dangerous to children. So would we have restrictions on sweets? You need to hand out your ID.
Well, we
have to do it for energy drinks.
We have a sugar tax now, don't we?
But quite. I just have to ask the question of where do we actually want to get with these things? Because social media, like it or not, is a part of life for all of us here as adults. I think we all use social media. It's probably been quite important for our careers in many ways as well. I just do not necessarily understand that having a complete blanket ban on children entirely, and teenagers, we are talking about people who Labour wants to be able to vote, and then suddenly unleashing them into this world that they haven't prepared for is a good idea.
Sorry.
So, I mean, it depends how you define it, as ever, which is why it's the devil's in the detail. And Poppy is, of course, a comment editor, so she knows how being controversial get more clicks and more readership. So she's got her own little personal algorithm going on. So it's Poppy who fights the social media ban that everyone's in favour of. But that's good, because it's quite right to challenge people like me on the detail of getting it right. So, but social media, they're talking about rushing something through. Go to your point, Iain, for a legacy. So is that really going to happen? Going to do it without proper scrutiny? We're about to have a new Prime Minister. And today, outrageously, there was a huge ruckus in the House of Commons, I don't know if you saw it, because there's supposed to be an Opposition Day debate tomorrow. One of the motions was going to say that the House should sit on Monday so that the new Prime Minister can set out, what he wants to do, and he can be asked questions. Because when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, I think it was about the 24th of July of that year, he came on the 25th and set it out. So we need proper scrutiny, and we certainly don't need a government which, on the one hand, wants to lower the voting age to 16. On the other, it wants to it wants to give votes to children. And unless it wants to redefine people who are 16 as not children, it wants to give votes to children, and yet it also wants to ban the people it's giving votes to from accessing social media at 17, whereas we were looking at the fact that children under 16 seems like a sensible area, should have restrictions.
What about this Opposition Day thing? I mean, can the government just cancel it like that?
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. It said on the order paper only last night that the subject of this would be determined by the Leader of the Opposition, and we had the poor old Leader of the House of Commons today. I mean, he was the criminal concerned coming up to do it, but you could see how humiliated and embarrassed he was, that he was ordered to come and say, we're cancelling tomorrow's Opposition Day, which was going to do two things. One, ask for a vote on having Parliament sit next Monday, just one day, so Andy Burnham could come and tell us his vision, because my constituents, he's going to be making decisions for, I think, 50 days before Parliament returns that could affect their lives, could affect what our response to the Iran conflict is, all sorts of other things. And it's pretty unprecedented.
The House of
Lords
is sitting next week, isn't it, Jenny?
Yes,
so
yes,
you could call him in front of the House of Lords, maybe.
Good idea.
I'll suggest it.
There's an idea for you.
It to my
you can have that
National
one
Party.
for free.
Yeah,
but Jenny hasn't been elected, and my
well, I
people
have
like
been
me,
elected, but not to the House of Lords.
But the constituents expect, the way our system works is, I had a campaign day on Saturday, and it was great. We're from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. at night. We're knocking on doors all over the constituency and asking people what do you want raised? And that's the way a system works, so that I can then stand up, preferably on Monday, to the new Prime Minister. He tells us what his vision is. I ask him questions on behalf of my constituents and the 649.
So who would have decided that? Presumably the Prime Minister.
Yeah, you could quite tell that Alan, the Leader of the House, was forced to do it.
I expect some spads had some control.
Poppy, have you shed any light on? I know you're not a political reporter, but you hear things.
Unfortunately, not on the Labour side.
Oh, how surprising. Right, let's go to the news headlines on LBC. It's 8:31, and with the news headlines, it is Matt Hewitt.
The Prime Minister in waiting, Andy Burnham, says there should be a serious review of MP security, and he's prepared to deliver one. It's after counter-terrorism police said the former Minister Anne Widdecombe was killed in a targeted attack. MPs have unanimously approved the Hillsborough law, designed to prevent cover-ups like that seen in the aftermath of the 1989 stadium disaster. It creates a legally enforceable duty for public officials and authorities to act transparently when investigations and inquiries take place, and goes to the Lords before being put on the statute book. And the government's promised to learn lessons from the inquiry into the handling of COVID. A report from it today's found systemic flaws led to vast waste, with almost £10 billion of unused PPE written off, but it also stopped short of identifying outright corruption or cronyism. LBC weather dry tonight, lows of 8 to 21 degrees. Cloud in the east lifting tomorrow, otherwise sunny and hot with thunder in the southwest, highs of 30 degrees.
This is LBC.
You're back with this summer's tournament coverage brought to you by BetMGM, where every game's the main event.
Let's see some of the standout moments so far.
There's early payouts coming in before halftime.
Beautiful timing.
Or when Golden Sub enters the game.
Always a game changer.
And what about those boosts?
Talk about making an impact.
Early payouts, Golden Sub, boosts, and so much more. Why play anywhere else?
BetMGM, where every game's the main event.
Select league and markets only. Eligibility restrictions and T's and C's apply. 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
At Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when the standout summer party spread even outshines the unfortunate weather. Make it a summer to remember with our delicious #1 summer range, including fresh Italian burrata with a creamy centre on a bed of sweet and tangy aubergine caponata, and succulent aromatic coronation spatchcock with crispy Bombay spiced onions. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Selected stores and lines subject to availability.
Take summer by storm with Kia. Introducing the new Kia Sportage Storm, a unique limited edition of the UK's favourite family SUV. Test drive the award-winning Kia Sportage today and order yours by the 31st of August to get 5.9% APR representative and up to £3,000 PCP finance deposit contribution. Search Kia Takes Summer by Storm. Kia. Movement that inspires. T's and C's apply. Kia Finance. To verify, visit kia.com/UK/favourite.
Cross Question with Iain Dale. Watch live on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
8:34, with us on the panel, Graham Stewart, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness, former Energy Security and Net Zero Minister. Just on that subject, Kevin Badenoch has issued an edict saying that all Conservative candidates at the next election mustn't support net zero. Does that put you in a difficult position?
Well, I haven't seen that specific edict, but what she has said is that we need to get rid of the Climate Act. And what became obvious to me when I was the minister in the government was that we were decarbonising. We decarbonised more than any major economy on earth. But we also managed to have the most expensive electricity of almost any developed country. Jenny, wait a second. Hold yourself back. We could hear Jenny breathing, filling her chest. And as net zero minister, we had to decarbonise electricity, and that's where we were making the most progress, and also do transport, industry, heating.
I've opened this up. I'm just wondering if we have a question on this later before No, we don't. But anyway, right.
So I think she's quite right.
Hold your horses, Jenny. Okay, right. Baroness Jenny Jones is here, Green Party peer. Poppy Coburn, assistant comment editor of the Daily Telegraph, and Dr. Mike Galsworthy, chair of the European Movement UK. Right. Trevor is in Blackburn and has a question. Hello, Trevor.
Hello, Ian. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Hello, panel. I'd just like to ask, what does Donald Trump want from breaking the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran?
Good question. Well, today, Trump has announced he's scrapped his plan to charge a 20% tariff on all ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, a whole one day after he himself announced this tax on shipping. The US Navy is going to resume its blockade of Iranian ports, however. Mike?
I think Donald Trump has got himself in a hell of a tangle and he doesn't know how to get out of it. I mean, we were discussing before we came into this room who wants to talk about Iran, because how do you actually fathom what's going on behind the scenes as well in terms of all of the associated parties and what they're doing and what they're saying? I'm sure there's tons going on under the radar, but above the radar, the only thing we can see is the president isn't resolving this, and he doesn't know how to resolve this, and I think has got himself tangled up in a briar patch. And this is really going to start hurting him nationally as we go towards the midterms. But unfortunately, it's going to be hurting all of us as well, because the more problems that happen with the Strait of Hormuz, the more you've got not just oil and gas, but also other critical supplies going up. And that hit is slow coming, but when it does come, we're all going to be suffering for this. And I think we're all working hard to, insulate ourselves from this. And I think that, we need to do it. My personal view is we need to really work with Europe on protecting ourselves collaboratively with regard to energy supply, electricity supply, all the prices that come with it, critical elements, minerals, everything else supply. We need to get on that case quickly. But I think this hit is going to come pretty soon, and I don't see a clean way out of it at the moment. That's what really worries me.
And let's add something else into the equation. I mean, it seems to me outrageous that Donald Trump can just effectively announce that he now is the sovereign power over the Strait of Hormuz and then want to levy tariffs. Now he's gone back on the latter bit. But if the international community allow him to get away with that, there's nothing to stop him annexing Greenland, is there?
No, we've got to call out this berserk behaviour. It's absolutely outrageous for the US, the architect of the rules-based global system. We've now got a maniac president trying to rip it down so we can have some transactional, profit-extracting, personal, family-benefiting policy in almost every sphere. I mean, it's truly depressing and outrageous, and he's managed to take Iran, which looked to be in a weaker position and hopefully a waning power with the people prepared to rise up against it, one hoped at least, and he's managed to reinforce the regime in its position of strength. He's given it a power over the Strait of Hormuz and therefore the whole global economy it never previously had. And if there was ever a reason why an elected politician should be thrown out of office for utter and total failure, both of his nation and the world, then it would be the behaviour of Donald Trump over Iran. And Mike is absolutely right to describe it as stuck in the briar patch. He's using gentler language than I would.
And I imagine, Jenny, you're just going to say what Graham said.
Well, more or less, except I'd just like to add, of course, this is an illegal war of aggression by the US against Iran. It was cooked up by Israel, who completely suckered the president into it, and now they can't see any way out of it. Plus, of course, all the Middle Eastern neighbours are getting very upset by the attacks on the American bases on their soil. We are still helping the United States. We're allowing them to use Fairford. We're allowing them to use Diego Garcia for their B-52s and that sort of thing. We are complicit in this. If I could say a sort of slightly nice word about Starmer, I did think he was handling the US President Trump quite well, but he still went into this terrible deal with Big Pharma on the drugs for the NHS that's costing us billions. And of course it's going to affect the NHS itself. It's going to reduce the amount of money we can spend on the NHS. People will die because of that stupid deal. And so this Labour government...
One of many, Jenny, that he did. He sold out the entire British bioethanol industry and Vivergo in my constituency, 150 direct jobs, 4,000 in the supply chain, major place for farmers to sell their wheat to make bioethanol in the UK. Totally gone.
It's
shut down because of him.
It's very distressing for me to agree with everything he's saying. I can't tell you. And I agreed with Mike as well.
But this is the new Andy Burnham land where we're all going to be nice to each other, isn't it?
Only if
is that reversible by Andy Burnham? Because I can tell you the Palantir contract is, and so is this farmer deal, because this farmer deal wasn't a treaty. It was an agreement between governments where our government actually decided to change how NICE and other parts of the NHS operate, and they did it through secondary legislation, removing the independence effectively of how our NHS operates. And it was a really bad deal. Compare it to how the Swiss handled it and how the EU handled it. Donald Trump was going around saying, I talked to Macron and I told him he has to lower his drug prices. And he said, no. And I said, yes. And then he said, okay. He's told that story lots of times. That didn't happen. French drug prices have gone down because Donald Trump didn't realize that with the EU, you can't tariff individual countries. There's this common tariff barrier, right? Whereas your drug prices are your national competence. So he couldn't link the two. So the EU just said, we'll take the tariff barrier, please, because that's going to hurt you as well. And the Swiss said, because the Swiss were exposed, they got hit with 39% tariffs. And then they were more clever than our government was. They said, well, how about if we encourage our companies, our pharma companies, to build more in the States and develop more in the States? And Donald Trump said, oh, yeah, that's good. And he gave them 15% like like the EU. But what we did is we said we will acquiesce to your request. Okay. We will put our NHS in the front line and pay for it directly from the NHS.
We
are. Sorry.
By the way, I happen to agree with everyone else on the panel that this war is a complete disaster. But I would just like to add an element into this discussion that I think we're missing. People are not going along with Donald Trump because they like Donald Trump. That is true for Mark Rutte. That is true for Keir Starmer. That is true for every single world leader. The reality is Donald Trump does the things he does because he can. Because America is the dominant military power with no real competition apart from China. That is why it is able to do the things it is doing. We cannot actually renege on contracts in the way Donald Trump does, because I recommend everyone, by the way, reads a book called Vassal State by Angus Hanton. It's a fantastic book. It goes into all the ways that this country is economically linked to the US in a submissive position. Yeah, we actually can't afford to say no to Donald Trump and a lot of these things. That is why it's so humiliating to watch world leaders go and basically kiss the ring when he is carrying out these illegal, disastrous wars. But what I would ask is,
nice vision.
What do we propose? What do we propose to do? Because I remember when Mark Carney gave his fantastic speech where he spoke about a kind of vision of middle powers, kind of growing together and joining in power against it. But I actually saw very limited movement towards anyone doing anything. We're currently having a big conversation about defence spending in this country. Well, I'm glad that Keir Starmer didn't involve us in this war, but the truth is we couldn't really involve ourselves in a meaningful way anyway. We are not an autonomous country. We are totally reliant on America. So it's easy for politicians to say when they are not actually leading the country that they hate Donald Trump. But I would just note that every single time they get into power, someone is speaking to them and saying, we cannot afford to have dispute with America. So I think that should have effect in our geopolitics in the medium term. But in the short term, the truth is our hands are totally tied.
Yeah, and that is true, which is why Brexit actually really hurt our position.
Don't let Mike do this. Jenny needs to come in before Mike gives us another Euro.
I just offered Jenny the chance and she said no.
Everybody's saying it all. It's brilliant. Yes.
Go on then, Mike.
Yes, seriously. Come on, Greg. So we have put ourselves in a more vulnerable position by coming out of the EU in terms of the collective power and heft that we have. I'll stop it there, but it cuts across so many different sectors and industries, and it's so obvious that I don't think I need to go into further detail.
You've done very well, because you've obviously looked at the clock and realised we're at 8:45 and it's time for a little
smoothly done.
We take some more questions. It is 8:45.
This is LBC.
Ever notice how some things are just standard? Traffic on the M4, standard. Meetings that could have been an email, standard. But at Aon, our cars are driving the new standard. The new Aon V has rapid charging, standard. Panoramic glass roof, standard. 8 years servicing, 8 years MOT, 8 years roadside assistance, and up to 8 years warranty. Also standard, thanks to our Great 8 promise. Search Aon Auto to test drive today. T's and C's apply.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. So who's ready for the best summer yet? Unwind in your choice of 4- and 5-star hotels in over 75 destinations like Kos, Lake Garda and Gran Canaria. Plus, you'll get 22 kilograms of baggage included. Book now and save £200 per couple. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. After National Protected. Subject to availability and conditions.
This is my throne, my castle. Those who do not bow before me will be thrown into the...
All right, Liam. Can you get off the throne and let the kids have a go?
All right.
Discover the historic South East with kids' train tickets for £2 on off-peak journeys. Southern Railway, where every stop is a story. Terms apply.
Don't miss the fight before the fight. Anthony Joshua must survive the here and now.
Huge risk! I'm back. July 25th, Joshua versus Prenga, live exclusively on DAZN.
When your husband's got his heart set on making the doer upper open plan, enjoy every thudding second of it.
Yes!
Be a step ahead with Barclays Premier. With our exclusive mortgage rates. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. All mortgages are subject to application, financial circumstances and borrowing history. T's and C's apply. New Barclays mortgage applications only.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
8:47 is the time on LBC. Graham Stewart is here, Baroness Jenny Jones, Poppy Coburn and Mike Galsworthy. Right, a WhatsApp question from Jesse in Chester. What lessons should this country take from the staggering amount of our money which was wasted on useless PPE during COVID? Now, the COVID inquiry has found that 2 in every 3 pieces of personal protective equipment which was bought during the pandemic were not fit to be used by NHS staff, meaning some £10 billion of public money was wasted on this equipment. That was announced today by the chair of the COVID inquiry. Jenny Jones.
Well, having lived through COVID, as we all did, I'm aware that a lot of decisions were taken very quickly, and probably very bad decisions taken very quickly. And so some wastage, I guess, could be expected, but some of the money that was spent really has to be recouped. And when we look at, the billions that we lost, why are people like Michelle Mone not paying back the... It's what, 100 million? No, it can't be.
I think it's 220.
220 million. Oh, dear. We could spend that on the NHS or on schools or something. Anyway, I think that it was inevitable that some decisions were taken too quickly, but equally, now we know they were bad decisions, we should recoup the money.
Graham?
Use experienced buyers. I was a trade minister at the time, and I remember it was full-on panic because we desperately needed to source this stuff. But then we had 25-year-old civil servants with some arts degree in some far-flung place suddenly being asked to procure PPE. And at the time, I remember going, surely we need some bloke called Bert who's been doing it for 30 years, buying from Bangladesh, and get him to do it, because I know from having run my own business, unlike your 25-year-old civil servant, the toughest thing isn't actually selling, it's buying. But the country was, there was such pressure.
Yeah.
And we did come out with absurd thing, I can say as a member of the government at the time, we will be the best buyer in the market. Well, translate that. I'll overpay.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you should ever send out. I mean, so sadly, we had too many non-commercial people involved in what is something which, even in the midst of a panic and a moral panic, and it was huge pressure on so many people. But it's fundamentally a commercial thing. You need hard-headed, experienced people who can buy properly. And what's amazing, though, I would say, on the positive side for that government, is for all this stuff about corruption and things, and people talk about Baroness Mone, I don't know the details of that, but she's been investigated, is actually the astonishing, extraordinary lack of corruption that I've seen so far. They've said, I don't think this government set up a commission for corruption. If there were any Tory to hang out to dry for corruption, they'd be getting them out there and hanging them from the lamppost, metaphorically speaking.
But there was a fast lane, wasn't there, where people could sort of bypass the civil service system.
Well, I've got a shameful thing to confess to you, Ian, on your show, which is, I remember I had people contacting me. And
I did too.
And they said, Graham, we've heard about this fast lane. Can you put us on it? And I said to my colleagues at the time, it's just because I've been around a while and I'm running a business, and so it was a bit selfish in a way, because I said, no, I won't. And they said, why not? Because the country is desperate, and I've got this link in China, and you know me, I know you from running a wind farm. What do you know about PPE? I've got a contact. I said, well, the last thing, because the public will express no gratitude when we source the stuff now in desperation, but 10 years from now, people will be being dragged through the courts and with alleged corruption. And so the last thing I'm going to do is take you, who I know and once gave £1,000 to my election campaign, for which many thanks. I put you in this VIP last lane. They're going to make me out to be some kind of corrupt character.
Well, I did do that, because I had people phoning in not phoning in, but sort of emailing me or whatever, saying, look, I know you know people in government. Will you sort of introduce me to them, because I know that I can get this stuff and I can get it free. Now, I went through a similar thought process. Well, do I do this or not? And I thought, well, they may be genuine. If they're not, well, it's up to the government to find out if they're not genuine. So I did. I texted Matt Hancock and I said, look, I don't know if you're interested in this, but I've got this guy who says he can do this, that or the other. And he said, yeah, I'll pass it on. I mean, that wasn't, I don't think that was a bad thing to do, because the country was, we forget about this now, but as you say, the country was crying out for this stuff.
You did it with good intent.
I did do it in good intent. I had nothing to gain.
And you're not
from it.
alone, Ian. And I mean, it doesn't seem to be happening, fortunately, but I just always knew that good people doing it for the right reason would end up being painted as some kind of corrupt and horrific individuals. I gave them the email address and said, email directly and don't come through me.
Yeah. But the question is here, which good people who can do this have access? I mean, I watched all this very closely because I and others set up the all-party parliamentary group on coronavirus at the time. And we had, weekly sessions on this. What really appalled me was firstly the lack of preparedness at the outset with sufficient PPE. I mean, we had people responding to some of the first incidents of coronavirus.
You could have never been prepared for it, though. I mean, you just couldn't.
No. There was an assessment that we needed.
No country was prepared for it.
Could we also make the point when we're talking about preparedness and wasted money? The COVID inquiry is still rumbling on that we've spent over £200 million on. Every other European country has managed to wrap theirs up in good time, and yet we're still enriching lawyers at the basis of it. If you want to talk about waste in government, perhaps we could start with these endless inquiries that seem to achieve nothing.
Quite right. I was asked 123 questions as having been the trade minister, and they said, and I said, well, I didn't really have much to do with it, as I remember directly. And they said, well, you were appointed on this date to be the COVID minister in the department. So that was embarrassing. Before I realised that it was 11 days later that I got COVID and was out, and they appointed someone else. So I had a bit of an excuse. But the whole thing is so, Poppy's quite right, it is so overwrought, it's so outrageous. We spend all this money. It should just focus on what they need to learn. We need to find the wrong. If there are wrong uns, if there was acts of corruption, then absolutely go after them. But don't make everybody.
We've got to that point in the programme where I have to read something out. Michelle Moan and her husband, Doug Barrowman, of course, deny any criminal wrongdoing over the supply of PPE, but the pair are currently being sued by the liquidators of their collapsed company, PPE MedPro. Last year, a court ruled against the company and found it had breached a government contract to supply PPE, awarding the government £122 million plus interest. There, I've done my duty. Tanya in Southwark says, Ukraine, Montenegro, Moldova and Albania have all held meetings with the EU today about joining. Why is this country such an outlier when it comes to running away from the EU when other nations are keen to join? Well, the EU's Enlargement Commissioner, Marta Koss, has told reporters that today has been a Super Tuesday for EU enlargement, with all four of those nations having ceremonially begun the process of negotiating their paths to joining the bloc. However, it could take many years before any of them does actually become an EU member state. Well, obviously, I have to come to you, Mike, on this.
Yeah, great stuff. But I would say that the expansion of the European team is also westward as well as eastward, because we have Iceland that's going to have a referendum next month on whether they pick up their accession process. You've got the opposition leader in Norway, Conservative, saying we should get back into the EU. You have polling in Canada showing...
Have they been a member before?
No.
Right. Well, you said back into the EU. I assume that...
Sorry, that's hardwired into my brain by now. But they have had referendums before on it, but they are really looking at it again, and it's a growing option. Similarly, in Canada, there's been polling done that a majority of people there would like to join the EU, and also in Greenland as well, where 6% would like to join the US and 60% would like to join the EU.
We'll have Israel next.
But so I think the interesting thing here, and this comes back to the Mark Carney diagnosis, is that with America really falling away from its responsibilities for international law and order and being totally unpredictable, there is a case for the middle powers to be working together. And as Mark Carney himself said, Europe is the best basis around which to build that. And I think that we in the UK, because we're such a linchpin and a link with the Commonwealth and Europe, and we were the gate for Asia into the single market, and we do have relations with the States, I think we're in an ideal place to be helping bring all this together.
I'm genuinely not cutting you off, but I'm looking at the time, and it's 8:57, so the three of you have got 2 minutes. between you to answer this question, Jenny?
I'm worried about the EU still being not green enough, quite honestly, because some of its, its food rules and things like that, they're not as good as ours. And we actually do, I think, give us credit for actually having some excellent environmental. Oh, I shouldn't say that, should I? Because the Labour government's so awful.
It's interesting to hear a Green politician talk about green issues, because it rarely happens now.
I talk green all the time, as my Tory colleagues will tell you. I keep shouting it.
Well, I will put in a good word for you, because I'm going to be on Zach Polanski's podcast tomorrow, so I'll make sure he knows that. Graham?
Well, we're perfectly capable of being an independent country, and so what we're seeing is that economic power is the core of all other power and influence. And the EU is sclerotic. It's over-regulated. It's not really growing, and it's waning in terms of its share of global share of trade. And the truth is, the UK, if properly run, and I was strongly in favour of Remain, I campaigned for it in an out area, but the truth is, if we show the agility, the self-belief, the self-confidence, as the 6th largest economy in the world, which may well become the 5th again, we can make a success of Brexit. But we've got to do what they feared. Do you remember, Ian? They were terrified that we would become more agile, that we would lower our taxes, we'd attract more corporations, we'd attract more high net worth individuals. We would make ourselves the most competitive place in Europe to do business. We've done the exact opposite, and to an extent under successive governments. The great opportunity for Kemi Badenoch is to reset when the election comes and make this country competitive once again.
God, I think I've got about 10 seconds, so I'll try and be quick. I do broadly agree with what you've actually just said, Graham. But when I say that I think we should be closer to Europe, I do actually agree with that. This is the future, at least geopolitically and in security terms. We are going to have to get closer to these middle powers. But I do also agree that the European Union is not an economic model that I think the UK can really learn from. Just because we're doing incredibly badly does not mean that our friends across the channel are doing much better. So I'll leave it at that.
Well put, everyone. Right, let's move on to our fun question. It's from Christian in Crawley. Ian is about... I can't read.
You could ask yourself first.
Ian is about to have Sonny Green on the show, who's done the World Cup anthem, We're Telling 'Em. What's your favourite World Cup song? Jenny?
I'm musically ignorant, so I'd probably just have Jerusalem.
Which some people say should be played when the national anthems are played rather than God Save the King. But we'll leave that one. Graham?
Oh, God Save the King. I was going to correct you then. Dear me.
Well, I know they're manic Man City fans, which I don't like, but I love Wonderwall. I wish we had less commentary over it while we were watching everyone singing it. We're watching the players singing it, seeing Jude Bellingham standing so tall, representing everything you want about this country. And hopefully his genius, along with Harry Kane and the others, is going to take us to the World Cup.
Now, Poppy, I suspect this is a challenging one for you.
Yeah, I'm a phony. I'm very sorry. I know it's the wrong time to say it's the World Cup, but I'm not a massive football fan. But on my walk over here, I did hear a lovely rendition of Three Lions.
Would you like to come and present the programme tomorrow night?
I feel like you're watching the game. Exactly. No, it's a terrible time of year to not be a football fan. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey Jude. And I want to be hearing that loudly tomorrow night and also loudly again in the final. Hey Jude has to be it for this World Cup.
Well, fingers crossed. Thank you all very much indeed. Really great panel this evening. On tomorrow's panel, we have Labour MP Samantha Niblett, she of the Summer of Sex. No, I better not say that. And writer Andy Twelves, plus LBC's very own political correspondent Bethany Dawson, and Ellie Hodges, political commentator. She'll be with us too. Now, coming up in the next hour, I've been really looking forward to this because I first got to hear of Sonny Green, I think before Christmas last year, and he wrote a poem which basically gave his views on what he thought Englishness meant. And I just thought it was brilliant. He's a market trader from Southend, and he's become a bit of a phenomenon. Excuse me. He got to the final of Britain's Got Talent as well this year. And he's written this anthem for the World Cup. So he's going to be joining me. He'll take your calls as well on 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, probable new Prime Minister Andy Burnham's backed a serious review into MP's security. Detectives say Anne Widdecombe was killed in a motivated attack. They've been given more time to question a man on suspicion of a terror offence as well as murder. Lawrence Taylor is head of counter-terrorism policing.
This is a complex investigation, and there are multiple lines of inquiry that we are pursuing expeditiously, including digital forensic examinations.
The incoming Prime Minister says the Hillsborough Law will pass power to ordinary people. MPs have approved the legislation, which gives officials a duty to cooperate with inquiries after a row about the intelligence services was resolved. The law was due to be delivered last April. Shadow Justice Minister Kieran Mullen still thinks it's been rushed.
I would challenge any MP, no matter how supportive of this legislation, with such far-reaching consequences for the operation of the government, to say the progress of this bill, and particularly over the last 24 hours, is anything like careful and considered.
America's launching strikes on Iran for a fourth night in a row. Iran's Deputy Prime Minister says the attacks won't force it to request negotiations. Donald Trump has climbed down over yesterday's threat to levy a 20% toll on shipping for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. The government will give us advice on preparing for emergencies, such as cyber attacks and extreme weather. Minister Darren Jones has announced a national resilience campaign. He's been giving LBC some examples.
Whether it's a break in the water infrastructure or a loss of power to your home, or extreme weather that results in disruption to supply of food or energy. It's the type of thing where you just need to be prepared for a number of hours or days should there be disruption to normal service to your home.
And almost £10 billion of taxpayers' money was wasted in the scramble to buy PPE during the pandemic. The COVID inquiry has criticised the VIP lane, which prioritised offers of protective gear from those with political connections. Tory MP Graham Stewart says he was contacted about it.
And they said, Graham, we've heard about this fast lane. Can you put us on it? I said, no, I won't. And they said, why not? Because the country is desperate and I've got this link in China. I said, well, the public will express no gratitude when we source the stuff now in desperation. But 10 years from now, people will be being dragged through the courts with alleged corruption.
In the city, the FTSE 100 closed up 31 at 10,529. The pound buys $1.34 and €1.17. LBC weather. Low cloud could spread inland from North Sea coast tonight. Otherwise dry and clear. Warm in the south, but a low of 8 in Scotland. Sunny again tomorrow. Thunder in the southwest. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Matt Hewitt.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
It's 5 minutes past 9 on LBC. We are in for a great hour this hour. I know I'd sometimes overpromise, but I don't think I'm going to this time, because we are going to be talking to Sonny Green. Now, many of you will have heard of him because if you watch Britain's Got Talent, he reached the final of that, disgracefully didn't win it. I thought you were absolutely bang on to win that, Sonny, and thank you for coming into the programme.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. What a lovely studio this is.
It's not bad, is it? We try our best.
I don't think the online clips do it justice. It's absolutely brilliant in there.
Well, anyway. Give us some clips that we can put out, so we'll get them to go viral.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
Now, to people who don't know you, how do you describe yourself to people?
It depends who I'm talking to be honest.
Oh, you're talking to LBC listeners.
Talking to LBC listeners, I'd describe myself as a poet, a geezer, and a free thinker. I'd like to describe myself as someone who's pretty open-minded, loving, compassionate, most importantly, a dad and my 2 wonderful sons. And
how old are they?
7 and 4.
Right.
Yeah, so big up Levi and Raphael if you're listening, which you probably shouldn't be. It's your bedtime.
Now, those are interesting names for a Southend market trader.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
Well, I'm a musician as well, right?
Right.
And the Levites went into battle playing music. So that's why I quite liked that name. Because I feel that music and frequency, I suppose, but music especially changes the way it can change the way you feel. It's got me through a lot of tough times, and obviously Raphael is like a many different reasons, Raphael, but I just think it was a beautiful name and sounds nice, rolls off the tongue. So
no, it's a great name.
Yeah, and obviously one of the greatest artists ever to live. So yeah, all very creative.
And you come from Southend. We are fellow Essex boys. I come up from the other end of Essex. But I've been to, in fact, I was been to Southend a couple of times over the past couple of months. And were you born and bred in Southend?
I was born and bred in Southend, yeah.
And it's now, of course, a city, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. And I'm quite proud of it. That's why I always say when I come to London, I always say I'm in the second best city in the world. Because Southend's number one. And then New York can be behind it, I suppose. But yeah, Southend's top of the tree.
Well, let's give people a little bit of an inkling into what, for those that haven't heard of you, let's show them what you do. You've become... you've used the World Cup to very good effect, I think, in what you've been doing. And so let's just hear a little bit of your World Cup anthem called We're Telling Them.
We got Bellingham, it's coming on, we're telling them, we're Englishmen in New York. We got Harry Kane, he's gonna score again, we're Englishmen in New York. We come a long way for a laugh, so raise your glass. It's a game of two halves, who's the last to dance? We got 3 lions and half a chance. Bob's your uncle, ask your aunt. All the top boys wanna start a chant. We got Declan Rice, you can't test the guys. It's coming home and I'll testify it. Someday soon we'll get it right. We got Bellingham, it's coming home, we're telling them, we're Englishmen in New York. We got Harry Kane, he's gonna score again, we're Englishmen in New York.
That is all over my Instagram. I mean, literally, I always look at Instagram reels on the train home after the programme, and I would say in the last week or two, that comes up about every 7 reels that I look at. So I don't know what this says about my algorithm.
It's good. I'm glad. I'm doing my job right, thank God. Because, yeah, do you know what? I had, after Britain's Got Talent and my poetry, and it was all very deep and emotional, which is obviously a part of me. But everyone kept coming up to me saying I made them cry and I made them listen, I made them... Yeah. And it was beautiful. Like, obviously, I love it. But the World Cup was coming, and it's just like one side of my kind of character. I like to think I'm quite a happy-go-lucky, cheeky chap. So when I recorded that song, and the whole intention was that I can kind of not just have a reputation for bringing everyone to tears, and I can actually have a laugh and cheer people up a little bit, you know?
Well, it certainly worked. Did you write it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I wrote all the lyrics, and it was my idea. I went into a studio in Soho with a great producer called Z. And before I went in, I said, listen, I've got this idea, and I want to remake Englishman in New York, Sting's classic version. I want to remake that, and I want to do a football version. This is a football song. So I actually went in and recorded my poems, and like we put some music behind it and stuff, and it was okay. But I actually done a version. It was with a different producer called Cuddle From Your Dad, which I did actually release on all streaming platforms if you want to go listen. But then I recorded this with Z. And I was like, that is the one. So we released Cuddle From Your Dad, and it was all going well. And then I put out one clip of that song. Probably just either before or after the Costa Rica game, and it got 1 million views straight away, and everyone just went crazy for it, and I was like, this is the one.
So how planned was that? Because I mean, was it in March or April you thought about this?
No. Look, it wasn't planned at all, and even the song itself only took a couple hours. It wasn't planned at all, and in fact, if anything, I was almost being told not to do it. If anything.
Why?
I'm probably not told, maybe not told not to do it, but just like focus on the poetry stuff, and the spoken word.
Yeah, because it is a bit of a contrast.
Yeah. And I just come off Britain's Got Talent, and everyone's like, raving about my poetry, which is great. Look, I love my poetry, but like I say, it's just another string to my bow, as it were. Like, I love performing poetry, I love spoken word, but really and truly, I also like people dancing and having fun and being able to like celebrate and rejoice in my work as well, not just kind of feel like that deep emotion. I want to bring joy to the nation, and the World Cup, I believe, is a time that we can unite all together clubs, whatever, you know, it can bring everyone together, and we can sing a song that does that. And if I can throw in my kind of offering, as it were, then that's what I want to do. And I did. And thankfully, now I'm on LBC, Leading Britain's Conversation, with a wonderful Iain Dale.
We don't do music, but if we did...
there you go, we'd be on the playlist.
We don't do football, right? No.
Well, you know, it's one of those things. I think, look, football's one of those things where I feel that a lot of people kind of section it off like, oh, look, that's kind of that for maybe like those like working class people or whatever. You know, there's that. What's that great saying my granddad used to say? Football is a gentleman's game played by thugs, and rugby's a thugs game played by gentlemen. Yeah, you heard that one before?
I have heard that.
Yeah, my granddad used to always riff that one off to me. And I kind of never really got it. And then as I got older, I kind of got it, right? But at the same time, it's like football does so much. And it's one of those sports that you can play on a council estate and it's a way out. It's a way out for a lot of young people. It's like, that's why when people go, years ago, when I was, in primary school, people would come around and say, you can't all be footballers. But all of us wanted to be a footballer because genuinely that was the only thing that we used to look to and go, that's our way out.
I hate that.
No, it's terrible.
When aspiration is knocked out of teenagers. So, and look, okay, well, it's quite an evident fact that not everyone can be a footballer, but some people do get to be footballers and they can live their dream.
Yeah.
Some people have, but you've got to have hope, haven't you?
Exactly. That's exactly it, mate. You have to, because otherwise, what else have you got? Like, hope is the most important thing. You've got to hope for better days and that things can get better no matter what.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of online kind of critiques because I am so hopeful and a bit of a dreamer. But I'm not the only one. Hey, I'm not the only one.
You see, this is why he's the poet and I'm not. I've actually just written a poem, can I tell you?
Okay.
Have you heard of Jackie Smith? She's a Labour minister.
Okay.
I used to do a podcast with her called For the Many, and then she got appointed.
Not the few.
Exactly. She got appointed to be a government minister. So after 7 years, the podcast came to an end, and she's a really good friend of mine. Anyway, she's getting married on August the 1st.
Congratulations, Jackie.
And she's asked me to do a reading at the wedding. And I thought, well, I don't want to sort of do some sort of, well, it can't be a religious thing because it's it's not a church wedding.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I suppose I could look up the internet and get some sort of standard poem that you do at these things. I thought, no, that's wrong. So I thought, I'm going to write a poem.
Let's go.
Now, my sister is a brilliant poet. Let's put it this way, I'm not. I'm quite good at limericks, but I didn't think that would be appropriate. So I've written this 8-verse poem, 4 lines a verse, and I sent it to my sister to say, what do you think of this then? And Jackie said I could be a little bit irreverent. So there are mentions of dating websites in it, which is how she met her husband.
Okay.
And my sister said, well, you've got a unique way of rhyming because sometimes you've got the end of the first line rhyming with the end of the fourth line, and then sometimes it's the second line. And I said, well, I've got a unique approach.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no standard approach to writing poetry, is there?
No, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. I mean, I always say that I'm working on a poetry collection at the moment that's hopefully due to come out in all good stores at some point. But and I always think that the rules are there to be broken anyway, and the best stuff, is kind of free and it has freedom. Although there is something to be said to following structure and have some sort of order to it, but at the same time, some of my best work is definitely if you analysed it, and I'm sure some great people do, then it would probably break a lot of the rules.
Well, I think you have broken a lot of the rules, and we'll talk in a minute about maybe some of the challenges that you faced, because I mean, you're not an archetypal singer, you're not an archetypal BGT performer, so we'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes' time. You're listening to Iain Dale on LBC with Sonny Green. It's 16 minutes past 9.
This is LBC.
Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and come on in to Classic FM Calm, LBC's soothing sister station. Find peace in the music with Classic FM Calm. Listen on Global Player or ask your smart speaker to play Classic FM Calm.
When you're watching the match in bed, when you're streaming a game on your commute, when you just have to catch all the action.
Come on, go!
Oops, sorry.
Who cares? What's a spilt coffee after a goal like that?
Nothing brings us together like great TV. And a TV licence covers you to watch all TV channels, including live TV on streaming services, so you can cheer along no matter what time you're watching the football. Search TV licence together.
Ever notice how some things are just standard? Traffic on the M4, standard. Meetings that could have been an email, standard. But at Aon, our cars are driving the new standard. The new Aon V has rapid charging, standard. Panoramic glass roof, standard. 8 years servicing, 8 years MOT, 8 years roadside assistance, and up to 8 years warranty. Also standard, thanks to our Great 8 promise. Search Aon Auto to test drive today. T's and C's apply.
Okay, Laura, from the top.
When your 9-year-old is an unexpected tuber prodigy, and now you want to support her cheek-puffing talent, be a step ahead with Barclays Premier. With personalised financial planning and a dedicated advisor. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. Investment products and services are provided by Barclays Bank PLC and its subsidiaries. Capital at risk.
Iain Dale on LBC.
18 minutes past 9. We have Sonny Green with us in the studio. If you'd like to put a question to him or talk to him, tell him what you think of his work. The number to call, 0345 6060 973. Now, I first became aware of you when you wrote the poem What England Means to Me. And I saw it on Instagram. Oh, it's really weird how Instagram has started to affect my life. Like all my music now that I download, it's because I've seen somebody. There's a guy called, have you heard of Pedro Santos?
I haven't.
Sort of new young singer. And he's just got this brilliant song out. And it comes up again, like you, comes up on my Instagram all the time. So I downloaded loads of things. And so when I saw your poem for the first time and I watched it, and okay, I will cry at anything, but you got me. Like almost within the first few lines, I was gone. I was on the train with tears running down my face because I thought, this guy has got it. So let's hear a little bit of Sonny performing What England Means to Me on Britain's Got Talent earlier this year. How did that start? I mean, when did you come up with the idea for it? How long did it take to write?
Well, it started because I was walking down the street and I feel like when I was on the tube and I was around that there was a time where everyone was questioning whether or not you was a bloody mad racist or not.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I had a decision to make, and I wanted to let everyone know, especially those that are kind of maybe felt a bit under threat from the rise of the far right. I just wanted to let them all know that not everyone who looks and speaks like me has the same feelings necessarily, and that there are people out there that live perfectly normal lives with everyone else around them. And that's what I like about England. That's what England means to me. And some people take it out of context. Some people decide to focus on one or two lines and not the rest of the poem, because it's a 3-minute poem, right?
Yeah.
It's not a sound. It's not a one line. It's not a sound bite. So you can't hold me account to like one line. It's like taking lines out of context. It's just not fair. But England to me is not necessarily. It's not necessarily this kind of divided country that the media likes to push all the time. It's just not. If you spent half an hour in my life and walked around with me, you'd see how beautiful it can be. I know it sounds mad, but I always look for the gold and the beauty of it. And I've got some of my friends, for example. I've got my biggest song that I've done, right? One of the biggest songs I've done is called Yeshua, the extended version, and it's with a Nigerian singer called Nikki Laoye, who is she's in England on a talent visa. I don't think she's got full. I mean, she might have now, but she's here on a talent visa. She's she's massive. We've got millions of streams online, and she gave me that opportunity. Right, I've toured Europe with Asian Dub Foundation. The lead MC there is a guy called Activator. He's Bengali and he's a Muslim, and he's gave me an amazing opportunities. He changed my life. Took me all around Europe. Took me on tour. Gave me a job. He employed me. They gave me a job. Do you know what I mean? So how am I then going to go and hate on a particular group of people when I've had all these beautiful experiences? Of course, I've had some wonderful English men and women help me along the way, and Irish and Scottish and all sorts of people, right? But I just always look for the best, and I don't ignore people like, oh yeah, he ignores this and he ignores that. It's just I just don't choose to buy into the negativity and the hardcore, like this dramatic kind of oversold narrative that we get sold so much, that is purposely to divide human beings. I'm just like, I just don't buy it. It's just like, I just don't buy any of it.
And going back to the World Cup, I mean, I think that is something that has enabled all sorts of different communities to come together. And again, you see all sorts of things on social media that actually make you feel, well, this isn't the country that we're told it is. And I mean, I've never seen any problem with saying I am proud to be English, but even saying that, some people think you shouldn't. I mean, the Scots don't have this, the Welsh don't have it, the Irish certainly don't have it. So why should why should people try and make us feel guilty for being English?
Well, you just look, that I would say that's a them problem. Like, that's a you problem. Do you know what I mean? I'm super proud to be English. I love being English. I love my culture, and I love being, a good Englishman. But I do realise that there are bad Englishmen, do you know what I mean? There's good and bad.
But there are in every country.
There's good and bad in every culture, right? But at the same time, that's why I'm a bit annoyed. And I'll be honest, my poem says there, wait until the World Cup's on, then you know about flags, my son. Well, I actually think that if you compare it to like the 2006 World Cup, there's probably about an 80% drop in flags. Of English flags, and it's because most people were scared.
You're too young to remember the 1996 Euros, because that's when it really started.
But now it's like people are scared to fly the flag because it's been kind of hijacked by politics and identity politics and alternate agendas, instead of actually the World Cup's on, put a flag up because the World Cup's on. Do you know what I mean? And I was in America. I was in New York to watch the England-Panama game, right? And when you're walking around Brooklyn, you've got Puerto Rican flags, Colombian flags, Haiti flags, you've got American flags. Like, everyone's just proud of where they come from, because at the end of the day, your roots are your roots. You can never get away from it. You are what you are. You are what you are, mate, and that's okay.
Going back to the England poem, how long did it take you to write? Because I think some writers, it's like when I write a newspaper column, I'll bash off 800 words in 20 minutes, and that's how I do it. Whereas other people will spend 2 or 3 hours crafting every word.
Yeah, no. I like to do like short, sharp spells. So I'll do like half hour here, half hour there, and then read through it, and then kind of leave it for a bit, and then do a bit more and a bit more, until it's like around like a 2-minute, 3-minute mark. I think that's like the sweet spot. Like, for slam poetry, it's got to be under 3 minutes.
Slam poetry?
Yeah, like slam poetry.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's huge in America, and it's kind of big in the UK, but not really. In America, it's like they have like championships and stuff. They have world championships. Really? Yeah, it's a real big deal. Like, and they all get up and they do their slam poetry, and you compete and people vote, and it's like a serious thing, right? But in the UK, we're just like, we're a bit too reserved for that, and poetry is like a separate thing, and it's all different, right? So, but 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and you get up and you really go for it, and that's what really the
so
ideal.
You ought to start a Eurovision for slam poetry.
I mean, we could do.
Trademark it.
Yeah, quick, trademark it.
But do you? I mean, I didn't know you were going to be on Britain's Got Talent. I just happened to be watching it, and I was thinking, well, there he is. This is a guy that I interviewed however many months ago it was. And I mean, what an experience that must have been. But was there any point where you thought, well, what if I forget the words?
Oh, every time. That's what people don't realise, and that's why I was getting a bit. I mean, I think it's a bit crazy that you can, some of the performances, or one of them at least, was pre-recorded, right? It's like, well, I can't pre-record my poem, and halfway through I might, so I might get heckled, because they're a wild audience.
Yeah.
They can just start shouting, and so it's really difficult. And if I pre-recorded it, I wouldn't have any of those problems. It's a bit of an unfair advantage almost, right? Let alone whatever else can happen. So, but yeah, it's one part of it. So writing the thing's one thing, and then memorizing it's another, and then performing it as if you've memorized it is another part of the whole kind of talent. And for me, that's what I do best is the delivery. Like my writing's good, but sometimes if Joe Bloggs reads it on a page, I can always bring everything to life and say it how it's supposed to be said. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it, right? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's like that's the art, that's the beauty of it all. And I think that, yeah, it's a big part of it, is the performance side of the poetry.
How did you decide to go on that programme? Because I don't remember ever seeing a poet on Britain's Got Talent before.
I mean, I just wanted to really throw poetry into the forefront of mainstream culture, rather than it just living on, like you say, on Instagram. I love Instagram. I owe it a lot, because it's done wonders for my career. Like, I wouldn't know Mr. Iain Dale if it wasn't for Instagram, right? But
so I just remember the first time I saw your thing, I came into the studio the next day and I said, "Get that guy on my program."
Yeah.
And I was just one of those things. I don't know. It's almost one of those moments where the hair stands up on the back of your neck because you've heard something that you've never heard before.
Yeah. Which is beautiful, and it's a beautiful thing. But also that, there's lots of bad things about social media, but then there's lots of good things as well, that you can really you don't have to rely on mainstream TV and radio and press. I love radio, but you don't have to rely on these gatekeepers no more. And if you're listening at home, you can put a poem, or you can put a piece of art together, or something creative, and you can release it onto your socials, and it can truly change your life. And that's what I like to go and tell the young people in schools and people in general. I'm like, hey, you've got a voice and there's a platform for you to use it. Don't wait for people to give you a platform. Yeah. You don't have to no more. It's 2026. That's the DIY culture of it. You can literally do it yourself. You can self-publish a book on Amazon if you want to, or self-publish a book
which in general, you did,
which I did.
And I bought.
Yeah, and you can really do it without anyone over you telling you what to do, or gatekeeping, or manipulating your words or your narrative, or trying to drive you in a different direction. You've got freedom.
But are you not worried about that now, in that you have had huge success this year so far, and there'll be a lot of people that want a bit of you?
Yeah. And
you have to guard against that.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that?
Well, I just think you're smart. You keep good people around you. You go with your gut instinct. You don't ever you just got to know what you're doing and go with your gut, and don't ever just be open and honest with people. Don't overcommit yourself, but also just have boundaries. Like for me, I'll share with you this, that I'm got to think about what I'm saying. But basically,
you were about to say something and now you've stopped yourself.
No,
haven't you?
because basically, I'm in recovery, right? So there's no secret, but over the years of my sobriety and whatever, I've learned lots of different ways to keep boundaries and to say no, and it's okay to say no. And I've learned skills that I've brought into my career that have helped me navigate the entertainment industry and different platforms or whatever. So, and it's difficult, but thankfully now, because I'm not under the influence of any substances, I find it a lot easier to keep my integrity. Yeah. So I know it sounds mad, but it's true.
Well, we'll talk. No, it doesn't sound mad at all. I think we all want to keep our integrity, and for some of us, it's more of a challenge than others, I suspect. We will talk more in a moment. And Sonny, I'd never say Sonny or Sonny.
Sonny, yeah.
Sonny will take calls if you'd like to have a chat with him. If you've got a question for him, 0345 6060 973. Sarah says, please tell Sonny it's a joy to hear his message of hope. That's the Sonny we see in Southend. Great interview. you're a bit of a local celebrity. Can you actually walk down the street without being recognised?
To be honest, I know half of the people anyway. They're all my friends and family and cousins and mates of mates. Like, we're like a proper community, you know. So I know most of the people on first names terms if I can remember them or whatever. But like, my mum lives there, my nan lives there, my sister, but my whole family, you know. So it's just like home to me.
Right, it's 9:32. Let's get the news headlines on LBC with Matt Hewitt.
The Prime Minister in waiting, Andy Burnham, says there should be a serious review of MP security and he's prepared to deliver one. It's after counter-terrorism police said the former minister, Anne Widdecombe, was killed in a targeted attack. Andy Burnham's paid tribute to Sir Keir Starmer for delivering on his promise of a Hillsborough law, which has now cleared the Commons after a deal to bring spies within its duty of candour. It's designed to prevent cover-ups like that seen in the aftermath of the 1989 stadium disaster. And the government's promised to learn lessons from the inquiry into the handling of COVID. A report from it today's found systemic flaws led to almost £10 billion of unused PPE being written off. The Royal College of Nursing says it's a damning indictment of just how badly nursing staff were let down through poor planning and inefficient procurement. LBC weather, dry tonight, lows of 8 to 21. Cloud in the east lifting tomorrow morning. Otherwise sunny and hot with thunder in the southwest. Highs of 30 degrees.
LBC.
What you're hearing is real. The aliens have landed and they have something to say.
Take us to your dealer. Just 0.9% APR on every new Mini.
They just want to go to a mini retailer.
Mini.
You heard them. Off we go. Make contact at your nearest retailer and get 0.9% APR representative across the entire range with a 25% deposit and 24-month term. Mini UK is a credit broker. Order by 30th September, delivered by 31st December. PCP with Mini Financial Services. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. mini.co.uk/offers.
So what if the drink's pink and the cream's pink? Chill. It's no big deal. Just get the new Strawberry Candy Floss Frappe from our new McCafe Summer Drinks range. Now at McDonald's. Available until the 7th of September. Price and participation may vary. Frappe is not available on delivery. Subject to availability.
In a world full of noise and uncertainty, IG is the investment platform that backs you. Forget the dubious tips from that guy down the pub. Get real-time insights, analysis and tools. No more fat cat brokers clawing your gains. Pay zero commission on your investments. Switch to a platform trusted by British investors for over 50 years. IG. Trade, invest, progress. Your capital's at risk. Other fees may apply.
Don't miss the fight before the fight. Anthony Joshua must survive the here and now.
Huge risk! I'm back. July 25th, Joshua versus Prenga, live exclusively on DAZN.
Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
We got Bellingham, it's coming on, we're telling them we're Englishmen in New York. Whoa. We got Harry Kane, he's gonna score again, we're Englishmen in New York.
We come a long way for a laugh, so raise your glass. It's a game of two halves, who's the last to dance? We got 3 lions and half a chance. Bob's your uncle, ask your aunt. All the top boys wanna start a chant. We got Declan Rice, you can't test the guys. It's coming home and I'll test the fight. Someday soon we'll get it right.
We got Bellingham, it's coming on, we're telling them we're Englishmen in New York. Whoa. We got Harry Kane, he's gonna score again, we're Englishmen in New York.
Now, if you're watching on the LBC YouTube channel or the LBC app, you will have seen the video of that. And I mean, it's quite striking, isn't it? But it's not in New York.
No, but I did go to New York after that. That was my friend Tommy Davis. He's an incredible director. And believe it or not, fun fact for you lot, he shot that on an iPhone.
Really?
That was shot on an iPhone. That's how talented he is.
See, that's the brilliant thing nowadays. That sort of iPhones, sort of various bits of technology, it opens everything up to ordinary people, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he lives in Peckham, and that was shot in Bermondsey, around the corner. And don't get me wrong, he knows there's probably like certain apps he puts in or whatever, and he knows what he's doing. Like, he's an incredible director. He's done Stormzy music videos. We're working on a TV show called Cash in Hand, which is a TV show that he's written and directed, and it's in development at the moment. I was in there doing some voice work on it, but so we made that, and little did we know that it was going to go on and do do wonders. And we shot it, and then I think we released it about a few days later. But again, it just goes to show you that you can literally have no budget and a bunch of mates and go on and, well, we're in the charts, and we were breaking the charts.
And you anticipated the Jude Bellingham phenomenon, didn't you, with that song? I mean, I obviously was aware of Jude Bellingham, but he's never really played in this country at a top level. So he's always somebody that, okay, I know who he is, and I've seen him play, and great player. But wow, what he's achieved in this tournament. Yeah,
I just had a gut feeling that this was his tournament and he was going to go on and steal the nation. I liked the way he plays. I mean, I used to play centre mid, and I love him as a player. I think he's brilliant. I've been a bit outspoken about some of the negative press he's had.
Yeah.
Because I just believe as we should get behind our players. And especially if you don't know nothing about.
But he's just got this infectious character, hasn't
he?
And there are all sorts of clips you see of him where there's one that I've seen where he's going through a gauntlet of press, I think, and there's a guy from Venezuela. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And all the other players just walk past him, and he's disabled.
And
he stops and talks to him in fluent Spanish. He can speak fluent German as well. He's not your identikit footballer, is he?
Yeah, no, he's not. And he's a warrior on the pitch.
Yeah.
And, and he's a kind,
knows where the net is.
He's a kind, compassionate man off it. Yeah, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows what. And he's 22, right? He's 22 years old. I mean, this is what people forget about these kind of people in the public eye or sports people. Is that some of them are just young men. A 22-year-old man, right? He's got the weight of the nation on his back, and you're going to go and write a negative article about him. That says more about you than it does about him. What are you doing? Just give the geezer like a bit of encouragement and say to him, go on, Jude, go and win it. Go and bring it home for us. 60 years we waited for this. Go on. Don't write a negative article just because it's going to get me a few more views on socials or sell a few more papers. It's like, use your brain and support the lads, man.
And after the Norway game, when the reporter put to him what Thomas Tuchel had said, that it wasn't a very good performance, and he just said, whatever.
He snapped back, didn't he?
And I thought, you might get into trouble for that. But I thought it was actually quite refreshing.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's a very rock and roll kind of thing. But also, I think there's a bit of a miscommunication there, because Thomas Tuchel's interview before, he said, no, it's not a mentality thing. Their mentality is the best kind of thing. You can't question their mentality. Yeah. And then the reporter went and asked Jude, he said it wasn't a great performance. But really, I think what Thomas Tuchel was trying to do was actually take the pressure off of the lads, because he could have quite easily went, that was incredible, that was an amazing performance,
Let's take some questions here. We'll come to a call in a moment, but here's an interesting one from Mark. How did you get the rights to use the Sting song, as Sting is known to be a bit of a tough man to use his songs? Don't forget P. Diddy pays him something like $2,000 a day for the rest of his life because of the track that he used.
So, getting asked this question a lot. I'll give you a little LBC exclusive. So there's a big difference between royalties and the mechanical of a track, okay? So Sting's got 100% royalties, and we have the mechanical, okay?
What does that mean?
So the mechanical is like when you stream it on Spotify, we get paid, and when it gets played on radio, Sting gets paid. So and by the way, P. Diddy, he doesn't pay out of his own money. It doesn't work like that. It's not like you have to pay $2,000 of your own money. It's just that the royalties, like the PRS money, will go into whoever's got the publishing.
So if my colleagues at Capital Radio play your song sort of 3 times a day, Sting gets all the money.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
No, it's not. I don't think.
Well, you're singing it. Okay, yeah. He wrote it, but you're singing it.
Well, I wrote the lyrics. It is the melody he wrote, and we played it was all the original things, but I'm not. Basically, it's kind of what happens. The song might not have been as big if it wasn't for that reference. But also, don't forget that if you buy it on iTunes, like, we get the money. So it all helps each other. Yeah. And I just was very grateful for the blessing to just do the song and perform the song. And I'm not that bothered. I'm not a greedy man. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I don't. There's a lot more important things than money in this world, man.
Yeah, we've got to earn a living.
Yeah, but I do, and I can, and I and I go out and I breathe the fresh air, and I don't have no ties. I'm free. I love nature and fresh air and my kids and running around the park and having fun.
And what do your family make of what you do? Because, I mean, it's a very unconventional way to earn a living. And I mean, people often think, well, when my lad grows up, I want him to be X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
What did your family think that you were going to do?
Well, I've got a very, my dad passed away when he was 48, so I was 23, and he was a very amazing human being, but he would always let me do what I want. He was very and my mum's the same. She'd go do what makes you happy, son, you know? And they've both had their battles, their own battles, and I make money, right? I sell furniture, I do my market trading, and I'm okay. I can earn a pound note.
And you're still doing that?
That's what I'm taught to do. Well, yeah, we still have a little go here and there. You know what I mean? But I also perform and I sell my poetry books and I get on stages and I do stuff like I have fun. But I'm not running around trying to be the next billionaire from music. Like, you know, I think having £1 billion is greedy. I'm not putting anyone down for having £1 billion, but I just don't necessarily need £1 billion. I'm okay not to have $1 billion, you know. So, but it's funny, isn't it? This is how Britain is. Well, they straight away they go, right, right, money.
Tim is suggesting another way that you could earn money.
Yeah.
Please get Sonny as a guest presenter next time James O'Brien is off. Has brought such a smile to my face. Well, I mean, James O'Brien, he earns the big bucks.
Does he?
Yeah.
Well, you know, get his people.
So if you're up for that,
who do we need to talk to?
I'll get my people to talk to your people.
Yeah, look, I'd love to be a presenter on radio, and I can talk for England.
Well, we can tell that. The thing is, though, as a talk radio presenter, you have to listen as well.
I like listening. Yeah. Like my poetry says, you've got 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you should listen and see twice as much as you should speak.
Eamon says, this guy is absolutely wonderful. I hope he soon publishes his work. So are you actually going to do a proper book?
Yeah, so we're working on a new poetry collection right now, and we're just sorting out we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but hopefully something will be out later on next year.
In time for Christmas.
Poetry, innit?
This is from Sarah. Please tell Sonny it's a joy to hear his... Oh, no, I think we've already done that one, haven't we? Yes. Right, look, we are going to take a call from Grace in Ealing in a moment. Grace is a great caller. She's always got an incisive thing to say, so we'll hear from her in just a second. It is 9:45 on LBC.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Ben Kentish.
More fears over MP safety after police admit that Anne Widdecombe was clearly targeted. Why has our politics got so violent? Plus, the Oxfordshire village threatening to declare independence from the UK.
Ben Kentish at 10. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Got an unexpected message, phone call or email that claims to be from HMRC? Take care. It could be a criminal pretending to be us. To protect yourself, never rush to share personal information or part with your money. Learn to recognise signs of a scam, such as being put under pressure to share bank details. And if something seems fishy, report it to HMRC straight away by searching HMRC scams on gov.uk. Protect, recognise, report.
When your daughter's wedding guest list is double-sided, enjoy every hand-clapping second of it. Be a step ahead with Barclays Premier, with our best savings rates. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply, T's and C's apply.
Take Irish ferries from Dover to Calais, where your pet travels in the pet lounge. You'd be barking not to. Irish ferries. See travel differently.
What you're hearing is real. The aliens have landed and they have something to say.
Take us to your dealer. Just 0.9% APR on every new Mini.
They just want to go to a mini retailer.
Mini.
You heard them. Off we go. Make contact at your nearest retailer and get 0.9% APR representative across the entire range with a 25% deposit and 24-month term. Mini UK is a credit broker. Order by 30th September, delivered by 31st December. PCP with Mini Financial Services. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. mini.co.uk/offers.
This is the life. Sipping a glass of Chardonnay without a care in the world. La vie est belle, non?
John, for the 5th time, please stop doing the voice. We're in Sussex.
Visit a vineyard by train and save a third with Group Save on off-peak journeys. Southern Railway, where every stop is a story. Terms apply.
Iain Dale on LBC.
It's 9:47 on LBC. Sonny Green is here. We've just been talking about Spain beating France in the semi-final, which means if England win tomorrow against Argentina, we play Spain on Sunday. Don't get too excited, everyone. This is a problem. You sort of think, no. Be calm, but you can't be calm, can you?
I don't care, mate. I'm getting excited. Finally, we got
sitting here in your Declan Rice shirt.
We got something to be excited about.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Let's be honest.
Let's not tempt fate, but if we did win, it would be one of the biggest things that's happened in this country. I was 3 years old when we won in 1966. I obviously have no memory of it at all. But my dad, he recorded the commentary on a sort of reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I've still got it somewhere.
There you go.
But he did the ITV one, so he hasn't got They Think It's All Over on it. It was the other one. But, there will be this tremendous sense of national unity if we win it. But how can we make that last rather than just a sort of 3-day phenomenon?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I think it is a lot to do with voices, really, and just remembering what this country's great for. And that's what I try to do with my poetry, is just highlight all the great stuff about England, and we just look for the similarities and not the differences with each other. Like, look at what we got in common, and just go with that, and just celebrate the stuff we love, and if you've got these mad different opinions, then that's okay, but let's talk about stuff that we've got similar, that we can agree on. Okay, so can we all agree that Jude Bellingham's a fantastic footballer? Yes. You know what I mean? Can we all agree that if England win the World Cup, then we probably should have a day off on the Monday?
No,
yes.
No, I don't agree. Well, it can't be on the Monday, can
Why
it?
not? A bank holiday Monday?
No, I know. No, I think it'd have to be later. Because, you want the day off when they can come and do a parade through London, don't you?
No. They can do that anyway. They can do that the next Sunday, mate.
Yeah, but that's another day. But we can't afford. The economy can't afford to have a day with no productivity.
I think the economy will be doing just fine after England win the World Cup. Don't you worry about that.
Right.
It's done better that we've got this far, and that's actually true. Especially hospitality, like the hospitality industry. I guarantee it's done a lot better. Although the late kickoffs have not been good for it, but I can almost guarantee it's done a lot better that we got this far.
Right. Grace in Ealing has been waiting a very long time to talk to you. Grace, hi. What would you like to say?
Hi. Well, Iain very kindly puts up with me very weirdly mentioning God, and I do so because I came to feel there's really good academic reasoning to conclude God exists, and I find that really exciting. But it's quite unusual to hear people mention God in broadcasting, so I was really interested that Sonny did so in some of his performances, and I wondered how he came to believe in God, or if he wanted to talk about what inspired him to make that mention on national television.
Brilliant. Yeah, hallelujah. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I came to believe during some of the low times of my life when my dad passed away, and I didn't really know what to do.
That's interesting. Why would you really come to a belief in those circumstances?
Well,
because you could easily go the other way and say, well, how can any God let my dad die at the age of 48?
So I had a choice, I think. And I always felt kind of spiritual anyway. I felt like our souls are, that everyone's different but connected at the same time, and that there's a soul in us. And when you pass, you lose your 8 grams or whatever. And there's even science that kind of backs that up. But what happened was when I put down those substances that I was talking about, and I was starting to search for a higher power, I connected with the God of my understanding, which I now know to be as the Lord Jesus. So, and I that's what I said in my poem. I said, look, what happens when I'm dead? Because it's a letter to my son about me like loving him and being able to be there for him at all times. But what happens when that father figure is gone? Who do you confide in then? Who do you trust then? And my belief in God, what that does is it helps me not care really about other people's opinions too much, because I know that if I'm good with him, then I'm good. But at the same time, I know that I'm just trying to do my best, really, and none of us are perfect, and I don't want to ever push my opinions down people's throats, and everyone's entitled to their own vibe. Do whatever you want to do whatever you got to do. But if you call up and you ask me, then that would be my answer: is that yes, I'm a Christian, and I am, that's the journey I'm on, and each to their own. But this is my journey,
I think it's really refreshing that you're so open about that, because it's not often that people in the public eye, let's face it, you are now in the public eye. It's not often that people do that. And often when they do, especially I think for Christians, it seems to be acceptable in other religions to really go on about your religion, but for Christians, it's somehow not.
Yeah, well, it's a British thing, isn't it? Look, I don't know about you, but I've always been brought up is kind of, the way I was brought up was we don't really talk about politics and we don't really talk about religion. Anything else you can talk about, right? And it's very much a British thing. You go to America and that's all they want to talk about, right? That's all they want to talk about. But us, we're quite like, we'll keep that bit to ourselves and we'll talk about something that's, not really gonna. It's small talk, really, isn't it? Like, we'll talk about football all day long, but we won't talk about.
How did Americans take to you?
Oh, they love me, mate. I'm surprised they let me come back.
I just love your accent.
Oh my God, Sonny, you are crazy, man. They absolutely love me. And I love them. I love New York. Like, it's the only place I've been to America, but I love that place. The food is questionable, but the people are amazing, and I love the place. I love it. I just love it. I love it. And I love exploring. None of my family have ever been to America. I don't even know if any of them ever. I'd like to go through like my kind of family tree and know if any of them have ever been to America, but I don't think they have, and I have. So look, that's a win for me.
Have you been to other places in America?
Just New York.
Because you see, New York is my least favourite place.
Oh,
in America.
Really?
Everywhere else, I'd like much more.
Really?
Than that. Yeah.
But I mean, have you been to Sunset Park in Brooklyn?
No.
Well then. Go to Sunset Park in Brooklyn, and all my Sunset Park people, they're going to be going mad right now and screaming, right? But big up Sunset Park in Brooklyn. I love that place.
Right. Well, Paul says, I've loved this interview. It's so often that people like Sonny get put in a box and get sneered at by those who apparently know better and the pretentious. But what he's doing from an almost unique position is really positive and really important. I'm a crier as well, Iain, and Sonny is responsible for many a moment in recent months. What does it make you how do you feel when you hear that? The effect that you've had on people?
I'll be honest, I just want to give Paul a cuddle, mate. And if you ever...
See, he's off again.
If you come to my show, if you'll come to see me perform, I will hug you. Like, seriously, bruv, I will hug you.
Anyway, he continues.
You're amazing.
This will sound simplistic, but I really do believe that if more bought into his message of hope, positivity and unity, including politicians, we'd all be in a better place.
Yeah, man.
And another one here. This is from... doesn't say. Sonny is clearly an excellent young man. I agree with everything he says and feels that he may be the natural successor to Billy Bragg. Check out Billy's patriotic anti-racist album, England Half English, from 2002, as well as a 21st take on William Blake. I'm afraid I'll never have any love for Britain's Got Talent, though. Tacky TV.
Ooh, finally. I was waiting for a bit of a spike. You can't all be 100% love. Look, Billy Bragg's amazing. We recently done a gig together, a big anti-racism gig down at, I think it was Whitehall. And it was brilliant, actually. And your mate who you're going to be speaking to tomorrow, that I heard you over, he was there as well.
Who's that?
Mr. Polanski was there.
Oh, yeah.
And UB40 was there. But it was a stand up against racism gig, and that's where I first met Billy Bragg. So I actually met him there this year, and I performed What England Means to Me, and it was a very nice show, actually.
Do you have a plan?
No.
So you have
one day at a time.
So you're not thinking, well, in 10 years' time, I'd like to be doing X, Y, or Z. Apart from replacing.
Well, look, there's lots I want to do. I've got big dreams. I've got big plans. But I mean, in terms of like,
well, give me a dream.
Give me a dream that Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane do this dance for me Sunday and we win the World Cup, and I managed to get a ticket and hustle my way in there. My dream would to be go do a proper poetry tour in cinemas and in theatres across the country. That would be a dream of mine, and that I'd like to be able to...
See, I can imagine that happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty...
I mean, if Anne Widdecombe and I can perform at 50 or 60 theatres around the country and get audiences, damn sure you can.
Yeah, well, I'd love to, and I'd love that to happen. And at the right time, God willing, it will. And then I just, I've got loads of dreams, man. I've got so many dreams. And I've got so many hopes, but the way I see it is that you can only do what you can do today. And today, this is my dream. I'm on LBC with Iain Dale, talking to these wonderful people, hearing wonderful messages. I'm alive and kicking. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I've had some good food, albeit it was a bit cold in the pub opposite Parliament, but it was good. And I'm alive. I'm here. Tomorrow's not promised, and I'm just grateful to be here, to be honest.
What do your boys make of it? I mean, particularly Britain's Got Talent. I mean, they will have understood what that was all about.
They're only young, so at 7 and 4, I try my best to kind of protect their little bubble, really, and have fun with them and play football and go down the park and, be silly, be the dad. I try and separate it a little bit. But my 4-year-old Raphael is so funny. The other day I went back home after a few days out and about, and I was like, "Did you miss me?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he goes, "But you belong on stage, Dad." And I'm like, "Wow, so funny."
Have a little tear then.
I did. I looked him in his eyes and I just said, "I love you so much." You know what I mean?
Well, our audience have loved you. I mean, I've got a stream of texts here. Jane in Stenhouse Muir says, "Absolutely brilliant, Al with Sonny. Thanks. I'm buying tickets once I've stopped blubbing," says Paul, about your theatre tour. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has been, Sonny, and it's great to meet you, and hope we can do it again. And as I say, I'll get my people to talk to your people, and 100%. You never know, guest presenting slot on LBC might be coming your way.
That'll be absolutely
See if
amazing.
I can swing it.
Yeah, love you guys. Have a great day. Ta-ta for now.
Well, thanks for all of your calls and messages this evening. I'm back tomorrow from 7. Coming up at 1 on LBC, it's Richard Spur. But right now, here's Ben Kentish.
Thank you, Ian. Hello there. A very, very good evening. Ben Kentish here with you on LBC this Tuesday night. Good to have you with us on the show.
When I was elected in 2015, basically, we walked in, you were given virtually no security.
Being in politics, but we never used to be, did we? So what changed and why?
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, the probable next Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, says there should be a serious review of MP security because politics has darkened. It's after counter-terrorism police said the former minister, Anne Widdecombe, was killed in a targeted attack. Former Labour MP Paula Sherriff has had thousands of violent threats and told LBC the response from the police hasn't always been reassuring.
I had a man who was leaving swastikas outside my office. They eventually apprehended him and they took no action. He got words of warning. And I was like, my office team were terrified. And they wrote to me and they said he was having trouble